Live from the softball complex on the campus of the College of Staten Island, you're watching exclusive women's softball coverage right here on CSI Sportsnet. Today, in a conference doubleheader, the College of Staten Island will take on the Mercy College Mavericks as the Dolphins look to get their first home win of the 2021 season. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Babusky, along with Joe Foreman. And, Joe, it's been a long time since I got to watch a softball game here in person at the College of Staten Island, but good to be back and good to watch the Dolphins play once again as they come in here with a record of 2-4 so far this year.
First of all, welcome back, Mike. Happy to have you back on Sportsnet, your first broadcast on the ECC network with us, the new home of CSI Sportsnet for the 2021 season. But, Mike, the Dolphins have played 4 games since the last time we saw them here at the CSI softball complex. All conference matchups. They split those games, going 2-2, taking a pair from Queens College and dropping a pair against the Molloy College Lions. Both teams, this Mercy College Mavericks team, has also faced this season. And for the Mavericks against those two opponents, it was a 4-0 record for them against Molloy and Queens as they took all 4 games against those two teams. Or correct that, 4 games against DeUville and Molloy, not Queens and Molloy. So DeUville and Molloy faced by this Mavericks team. They won all 4 of those games. Those two opponents, the common opponents between these two sides entering today's matchup, an ECC conference matchup between the Dolphins and Mavericks.
And, Joe, since we last broadcast the Dolphins back in 2019, as there were no games played in the 2020 season, a lot of new faces for the Dolphins. And you look out over the starting lineup here today, Joe, and anybody watching the Dolphins last in 2019 will recognize only 2 names in this starting lineup, Samantha McPherson and Jacqueline Cateridge.
Yeah, for the Dolphins, a lot of new faces coming in to this 2021 roster. Right now, one of those most notable additions is Emily Corrick, who will get the start in this game for the College of Staten Island. But it's not only her pitching that has impressed, as she will take the circle in the first game of today's doubleheader, but she's also done a great job at the plate, hitting at an even .333, 6 of 18 on the season with an on-base percentage of .455. She leads off for the Dolphins in Game 1 of today's doubleheader. She's done a great job helping her own cause in the circle, getting on base at the top of this Dolphins lineup.
And, Joe, in addition to all of those changes, Dolphins now, as you mentioned, part of this ECC conference and, taking a big step up into Division II, Joe. And, it's going to be interesting to see throughout this 2021 season how the Dolphins handle that step up in competition.
And I think for the Dolphins in their first doubleheader of the season against DeUville, some rust definitely played a factor in those outcomes. The Dolphins with a bunch of misplays in the field, some miscues on the base paths in that doubleheader, and ultimately they dropped a pair of games to the Saints when they hosted them in their home opener last Monday. But the Dolphins now back at home just about 2 weeks later, following that doubleheader against DeUville, having won 2 of their last 4. As I mentioned before, the first pair of wins came against Queens College in an ECC conference matchup, a battle of CUNY schools between the Dolphins and the Knights. For the College of Staten Island against Queens, they took Game 1 by a final score of 6-0. Another new face who's really stood out in the middle of this Dolphins lineup, I believe batting second in today's game, she is shortstop Elizabeth Moore, a new addition that Eric Kraut spoke about with Dave on the Dolphin Pod ahead of the season. Moore was 3 of 4 with a pair of RBIs in that first game against Queens. As I mentioned, a 6-0 Dolphins victory, a win in the circle for Emily Corrick. In Game 2, it was Jacqueline Cateridge who got the start in the circle for the College of Staten Island. They won that game 9-4. One of the returners you mentioned, Samantha McPherson, she went 4 for 4 in that second game, the 9-4 Dolphins win, with 3 RBIs and 3 runs scored. So a strong game at the plate for McPherson. And we learned ahead of the start of today's game, McPherson will also be the guest on the upcoming episode of the Dolphin Pod. So check out CSIDolphins.com for that interview with Samantha. But the Dolphins will be turning to her at the plate. And as I mentioned before, Emily Corrick in the circle during Game 1 as they look to pick up a conference victory over this Mavericks team.
Yeah, and you look out over this roster for the Dolphins here, Joe, in 2021, just 11 players on the roster, nobody above a sophomore for the Dolphins. So the Dolphins going to start young and build up from the beginning here as they enter their first full season in Division II.
And that's a part of being a provisional Division II school. A lot of recruiting going into that provisional period. And, of course, the Dolphins did have some players opt out of the season as well. That certainly impacts things. As you mentioned, not only is this a very young team, but a very small roster overall as the Dolphins come in, I believe, with only 11 players on their active roster. So the Dolphins short on bodies. This Mavericks team, taking a look down their roster, a significantly larger team entering the CSI softball complex today, and they have a lot of experience on that team as well. Several juniors and seniors I spot looking up and down the Mercy College roster. So the Mavericks have the advantage in roster size and roster experience, but the home field advantage belongs to the College of Staten Island today. Unfortunately, no fans in the stands behind us for the first time, or at least for the first time that you've covered a game with us here on Sportsnet. Has to be a bit different to be seated here in front of the bleachers without the Dolphins faithful over our shoulder.
Yeah, we're so used to having them around, and again, it's certainly something that I'm sure that the players and the coaches miss, not having their friends and family around them to watch these games. But, Joe, we have plenty of time to talk about it during the game, but, you look at this Dolphin team coming in and, let's take a look at their offensive statistics first, batting just .236 as a team through the first 6 games of the season.
Yeah, and I mentioned some of the standouts hitting for the Dolphins already. Samantha McPherson comes into today's game hitting at .474. Emily Korick at .333. Those are the only 2 Dolphins up above the 300 mark. The next leading hitters on this Dolphins team, a pair of returners in Claudia Porcaro and Jacqueline Cateridge, hitting at .286 and .278 respectively. But the Dolphins will have to get it right at the plate. And as I mentioned before, in that first season opening doubleheader against DeUville, they had some issues in the field and on the base paths as well. Those are other things they need to correct entering today's game, and they'll look to even up their conference record at 4-4 with a pair of victories over the Mavericks if they're that fortunate in today's doubleheader. The Dolphins enter today's game 2-4 overall. All of those games played in conference. The Mavericks come in with a record of 5-3. 4-0 in the East Coast Conference.
And, Joe, before we turn our attention over to the Mavericks, let's take a look at the Dolphin pitching here so far through 2021. And Emily Korick has really come right onto this Dolphin team and really pitched well for the Dolphins right out of the box.
She certainly has. And you look across the stat line, opponent's batting average against her, 186. 33 strikeouts and only 23 innings pitched. She's allowed only 5 earned runs and 16 hits in those 23 innings. But unfortunately for her, only a 1-2 record despite a 1.52 ERA. So a bit of a disappointing win-to-loss record for Korick despite having pitched incredibly well so far this year.
So, Joe, let's turn our attention now a little bit to the Mavericks as they come into CSI here this afternoon. And, Mercy College playing pretty well, just had a winning streak ended a few days ago. So how do you see them coming into the game here this afternoon?
Well, I think the challenge for them in Game 1 is finding some offense against Emily Korick, who's been phenomenal for the College of Staten Island in the circle. As we just mentioned, they'll be turning to players such as Alexis Crawford, who's hitting at .467, Casey Akers hitting at .292, Danielle Burgos hitting at .350, Yolanda Bowman hitting at an even 500 in a bit of a smaller sample size, and Hannah Muller hitting at .533. Those are just some of the names in this lineup. Alyssa Guzman hitting at .471. So for the Mavericks, they have several hitters who have swung the bats extremely well so far this season, and they'll be turning to those bats against Korick in Game 1 and presumably Jacqueline Cateridge in Game 2 to give them the offense they need to defeat this Dolphins team.
And Alexi Benson will get the start here today, Joe, for the Mavericks. Alexi coming in with a record of 3-0 on the year, so she's undefeated so far here, Joe, in 2021.
And the Dolphins will certainly be looking to change that in Game 1. And as the starting lineups are introduced, we'll give you the numbers for Benson very quickly. She comes in with a 3-0 record across 3 appearances, all starts, a 3.5 ERA, a 1.38 whip. In 16 innings pitched, she's allowed 16 hits, 8 runs, all of those earned. She's walked 6 and struck out 21. Opponents hitting .250 against her. And, of course, Mike, we already gave you the numbers for Emily Korick. And I think the national anthem is about to be played in a few moments, so we will step aside and take a break. When Mike and I come back, we will have the starting lineup that Emily Korick will face for the Mercy College Mavericks. Dolphins and Mavericks coming up next here on CSI Sportsnet, exclusively on the ECC Network.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly, we're here to discover ourselves, our vision, our heart, our drive, to achieve every goal we aim for, because we want to be champions at the highest level, life. At Division II, the opportunities are here. Are you ready?
We're back, and we're just moments away from the start of today's doubleheader between the College of Staten Island and Mercy College. The Dolphins coming into today's game with a record of 2-4 on the year, and they will face a Mercy College team that has a record of 5-3. So while the Dolphins warm up out on the field, why don't we bring you the starting lineups? And here to bring you those starting lineups, my broadcast partner, Joe Foreman. Joe?
Thank you, Mike. Leading off for the Mercy College Mavericks, designated hitter number 41, Alexis Crawford. Batting second, the second baseman, number 30, Hannah Muller. Batting third, the shortstop, number 10, Danielle Burgos. In the cleanup spot, the first baseman, number 8, Samantha Frank. Batting fifth, the catcher, number 12, Sydney Johnston. Batting sixth, the third baseman, number 27, Yolana Bowman. Batting seventh, the left fielder, number 39, Alyssa Guzman. Batting eighth, the right fielder, number 15, Ariana Ricci. And batting ninth, the center fielder, number 11, Casey Akers.
So that's the starting lineup here for the Mercy College Mavericks. And, you know, Joe, we mentioned earlier the Dolphins with a limited number of players on the roster, just 11 on the roster this year. So you've kind of seen this defensive alignment for the Dolphins here so far this year.
This has been the traditional alignment for the College of Staten Island defensively. And those miscues I mentioned in the first doubleheader against D'Youville, as I said before, could be attributed to rust. Very limited practice for the Dolphins ahead of that season-opening doubleheader. But unfortunately, in that game, those issues occurred both on the infield and in the outfield. Some of them just routine plays that weren't made by this Dolphins team. Others a bit more difficult, not necessarily the most routine defensive chances, but I'm sure the Dolphins have tried to get that cleaned up ahead of today's doubleheader. It's the first time we've seen them here at home since 2 Mondays ago.
So Alexis Crawford will lead off here for the Mavericks. Crawford batting .467 on the year. She's 14 of 30, 6 runs, a double, a triple, and 3 RBIs. Corrick, a right-handed pitcher, and her first pitch is on the outside corner for a strike, 0-1. Defensively for the Dolphins here this afternoon, it'll be Kate Ridge at first, Comuhendo at second, Elizabeth Moore at short, Samantha McPherson at third as Corrick winds, and the pitch, swing and a miss on the high fastball, 0-2. In the outfield, Jessica Caroon in left field, Claudia Picaro in center, Victoria Whalen will be in right for the Dolphins. As Corrick winds, the pitch off the outside corner for a ball, 1-2. Isabel Gallo behind the plate and Corrick on the mound. And, you know, Joe, we mentioned earlier, a very young roster for the CSI Dolphin team.
It absolutely is, and they are leaning heavily upon those young players early in the season with nowhere else to turn.
So Corrick kind of gets that one a little high, and Crawford waves at it for strike 3. So good start for Corrick and the Dolphins here this afternoon.
And that's been typical for Corrick so far this season. A lot of strikeouts, as I mentioned, per innings pitched during the pregame. She often pitches from ahead in the count, and at times has been thoroughly dominant in the circle for this Dolphins team early in 2021.
So 1 out, no one on here for the Mavericks, and that'll bring up the second baseman, Hannah Mueller. As the first pitch is a swing and a miss, strike one, and nice off-speed pitch that time, Joe, to start the at-bat.
Yeah, Korach had Mueller way off balance, way out in front of that off-speed pitch that dropped right out of the strike zone, difficult to hit.
This Maverick team batting .343 as a team, so they've gotten off to a good start here as that pitch is low for a ball, 1-1, and Mueller certainly a part of that, batting .533, 8 for 15 with 3 RBIs. The 1-1 pitch is up high for a ball, 2-1. Korach 1-2, as Joe mentioned, 1.52 ERA, 16 hits in 23 innings. As that pitch is taken down low for a ball, 3-1. She's allowed 5 earned runs, walked 8, and struck out 33. So a very good walk-to-strikeout ratio, Joe, and has just allowed 4 extra base hits on the year, all doubles. As that one is taken for a strike, and that'll run the count full at 3-2.
As she tries to work back from initially behind 3-1 in this at-bat. Not a pitcher who walks many. You just said it. Only 8 walks as opposed to 33 strikeouts, those coming in 23 innings pitched.
Korach winds, and the pitch is taken just offside the outside corner for a ball, ball 4. So the first base runner of the game will be Mueller as she draws the base on balls. And interesting start to the lineup, Joe. A couple of left-handed hitters for the Mavericks. And, watching, most teams' lineups, you're lucky to see 1, maybe 2 left-handed hitters in the lineup. The Mavericks come at you with 2 lefties to start. As that one is grounded up the middle and through, and that's going to be in for a base hit. Let's see if they score that in error. It looked like Moore was going to be able to scoop that one up, Joe, and maybe start a double play, but instead it rolls through the infield, and that's going to be an error on the shortstop. And, Joe, for the CSI Dolphins, that's going to be their 16th error of the year, Joe, in just over 6 games. And, that's one of the trademarks of this Dolphin team is to be able to field the softball, and now they're in a little bit of a hole here in the top of the first.
Well, Mike, that runner advancing from first to second was just sent back to the dugout. I believe there was an interference call of some kind over at second base, as that runner is erased for the second out of the inning. Standing over at first is Burgos, so there had to be an interference call over at second base that resulted in the runner being ruled out.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see if we can get an official word on that play. So now with a runner on first base and 2 outs. So Burgos will remain at first base now with 2 outs, and that'll bring up the number 4 hitter, Samantha Frack. Not much of an argument put up by the Mavericks, Joe, so they must have agreed with whatever the call was.
There was discussion between their head coach and the umpire over at second base. It wasn't a very long discussion, and it appears as if Mike Fazio was satisfied.
So 1 ball, 1 strike to count. As that pitch is up high for a ball, and the count goes to 2-1.
Frank comes in hitting at .235 on the season. 4 of 17 at the plate.
She swings and skies that one foul out of play, and that'll even the count up at 2-2. And Frack with 2 of the 4 home runs on the season for the Mavericks, so she's shown power here in this 2021 season. Korach winds. That pitch is fouled off the screen out of play. Count holds at 2-2.
And for the second time this week, Sean Fitzpatrick gets caught with a foul ball drilled right at him behind the backstop, and this reaction was no less subdued than his reaction on Monday.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch fouled off for a strike, and just got a piece of that one, Joe. And Gallo couldn't hold on, so the count holds at 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Runner on first base. Just underway, first of 2 here at the CSI Softball Complex between the Dolphins and the Mavericks. As that pitch just off the inside corner for a ball, 3-2. So Once again, Corrick working the count full, Joe.
Yeah, Corrick's had her pitch count run up to 18, but assisted with that runner's interference at second.
As that ball is swung on and drilled down the right field line. If it's fair, it's trouble. And that's going to be in for a foul ball. So that was a nice drive that time by Frack, but just foul. And the count holds at 3-2.
Well, due to social distancing, Mike, our angle not exactly the best to see that right field corner as Mike will slide over to his left.
3 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch is taken for strike 3. Actually, Frack went around too far, so she gets called out swinging for the 3rd out. So for the Mavericks here in the top of the 1st, no runs, no hits, 1 left. We played 1 half inning of play. Mavericks nothing, Dolphins coming to bat. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials. Live music. And the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dining order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
We're back getting ready for the bottom half of the 1st inning. Corrick able to retire the Mavericks and leave 1 runner on base. So now it'll be the Dolphins' turn to bat. And here to bring you the CSI starting lineup, Joe Foreman. Joe?
First in the circle for the Mavericks is number 6, Alexi Benson, and a defensive substitution as well for the Mavericks as Alexandra Caravallas will come into the game and play first base. The lineup that Benson will face in the circle for the College of Staten Island is as follows. Leading off the pitcher, number 16, Emily Corrick. Shortstop, Elizabeth Moore, bats second. Third baseman, Samantha McPherson, bats third. Claudia Porcaro, the center fielder, bats in the cleanup spot. Batting fifth, the catcher, Isabel Gallo. Batting sixth, the first baseman, Jacqueline Cateridge. Batting seventh, the right fielder, Victoria Whalen. Batting eighth, the left fielder, Jessica Carrion. And batting ninth, second baseman, Gorette Comohendo.
So Corrick leading off. The left-handed pitcher bunts at the, or batter, I should say, attempts a bunt at that first pitch and takes it for a strike, 0-1. And Alexi Benson on the mound, Joe, here for the Mavericks, coming in undefeated thus far in the 2021 season. The pitch is swung on and lashed down the left field line foul, and Corrick falls behind in the count, 0-2.
Well, in case you missed it in the pregame, we did provide the numbers on Benson, a 3.5 ERA, 3-0 on the season, as you mentioned, unbeaten, 16 innings, 16 hits, 8 runs, all of those earned, 6 walks, and 21 strikeouts. So
Corrick batting .333 on the year for the Dolphins, 6 of 18, still looking for her first extra base hit of the season. The pitch is swung on and bounced slowly to third. Bowman there, throws it over to first base. The throw will be wide, as Caravallas can't make the play on the ball, and we'll wait for the official scoring. But nonetheless, Joe, Corrick leads off and gets on base here for the Dolphins.
Well, I think that's going to be the Dolphins' first hit of the game, getting the leadoff runner on. That is Corrick with good speed over at first base, and that will bring up Elizabeth Moore. So Elizabeth Moore will be the batter. Moore, the shortstop for the Dolphins, batting .222 on the year. 4 of 18 with 3 RBIs. The wind of the first pitch, swing and a miss. And the throw down to second base is in time. That time Corrick went on the first pitch, Joe, but Johnson able to get the throw down in time. And 1 out here for the Dolphins in the first. The Dolphins have not been shy about attempting stolen bases, especially with Corrick and Gorette Comohendo on the base pads. And right there, Corrick is cut down trying to swipe second base for the first out of the inning.
So Corrick gunned down for the first time this year after 2 successful stolen base attempts as Moore swings and misses and falls behind in the count now, 0-2. The wind and the pitch is swung on, and that's hit down the right field line, foul out of play, and the count on Moore holds at 0-2.
Mentioned it during the pregame, Mike. Moore with a big game in one of those wins over Queens College. She's one of the bats in this Dolphins lineup they'd like to see get hot, and that will certainly help them as they look to put runs up on the scoreboard in these East Coast Conference matchups.
The wind and the pitch just off the outside corner, and the count goes to 1-2.
Dave and I calling baseball last night saw that pitch punch out several hitters in Game 1, and then in Game 2, the infield umpire who moved behind home plate did not call it a strike on the outside corner.
So 1 ball, 2 strikes. The pitch is swung on and popped in the air. Coming in is the first baseman on the play, Caraveras, but she can't make the play, and the count will hold at 1-2.
Really a great play there coming from first base by Caraveras, sliding up against the dugout fence, but unable to make the catch, and new life for Moore. The count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Very young Maverick team as well, Joe, as they look up and down the roster, and a couple of upperclassmen on the team, but not very many. As that pitch is swung on and drilled up the middle, and that's going to be a base hit. So Moore taking that one right back up the middle on a 1-2 pitch. And the first 2 Dolphins have reached base. So now they have a runner at first once again, Joe, with 1 out.
Well, that stolen base stings a little bit more right now as Corrick was erased trying to swipe second. She very well could be on third base right now. Perhaps would have scored if stealing the base successfully, but either way now it's left to Samantha McPherson, the Dolphins' hottest hitter, with a runner on first and 1 out.
So McPherson coming in batting .474 on the year. She's 9 of 19, 6 runs scored, 4 doubles, a homer, and 4 RBIs. Benson looking in, and the first pitch is taken up high for a ball, 1-0. Just underway, first of 2 here at the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins and Mavericks here this afternoon. What turned out to be a pretty nice day, Joe. As that pitch is taken for a strike, and that'll even the count up at 1-1.
Well, the weather is nice as we could have hoped for, Mike. Not too warm, and we're shaded under these tents, which we've set up for the first time. So as a commentator, I think we're both pretty pleased with the way the weather turned out and our setup as well.
Yeah. So 1-1 the count on McPherson. The pitch is swung on, and that's drilled to right field, but backing up on the ball is Ricci, and she's there to make the catch for the second out.
When McPherson's made contact, it has been solid contact. 4 of her 9 hits on the season have gone for extra bases, and a lot of her outs have been loud outs hit deep into the outfield. That ball right there, no exception.
So that's going to bring up the center field, Claudia Picaro, and Claudia, of course, one of 3 returning players, Joe, for the Dolphins. I incorrectly said 2 earlier. The third leading hitter on the team, batting .286 on the year as she swings and fouls that one back, and the count goes to 0-1.
Claudia has one of 3 Dolphins home runs on the season, the other 2 belonging to McPherson and Victoria Whalen.
So she's down in the count now, 0-1. Benson looking in for the sign. And the pitch is up high for a ball, and that'll even the count up at 1-1. Dolphins playing in the East Coast Conference here, Joe, and really have played pretty well here through these first few games.
They have. It's a good first impression the Dolphins are making on their new conference. As we know, they did not get any games in last year. So this is the first look that the East Coast Conference is getting at the College of Staten Island. They debuted against D'Youville back on March 30th and have played 4 more games in conference since, going 2-4 overall on the season, all 6 games, East Coast Conference matchups. Today's pair, no exception to that, as the Mavericks will look to stay perfect in conference play. The Dolphins hoping to disrupt that.
So a quick visit to the mound, and we're back ready to go. Caro ahead in the count now, 2-1. Dolphins with 2 hits here in this first inning, the wind and the pitch. And that's outside for a ball, and the count goes to 3-1. And
if you're the Mavericks, you don't want to walk a run into scoring position, but Porcaro, a very dangerous hitter. You need to be careful on 3-1 not to give her a pitch over the heart of the plate.
The wind and that 3-1 pitch is up high for a ball 4. So 2 hits and a walk for the Dolphins as they now have runners on first and second with 2 out, and that's going to bring up the catcher, Isabel Gallo.
Gallo's been in the middle of this Dolphins batting order in just about every game they've played this year, if not all of them, but right now struggling at the plate, hitting at 105 on the season. Dolphins could really use a big base hit from her right here.
Okay, just 2 hits for Isabel on the year. As Benson looking to work her way out of trouble. The wind and the first pitch is taken up high for a ball, 1-0. And Benson's really been working up high really this whole first inning, Joe.
She has, and her pitch count's getting up there as well. We saw Korek throw 20 pitches in the first. This next pitch from Benson will be number 19. And Isabel Gallo at the plate, also in search of her first RBI of the season, has a runner in scoring position here with 2 away.
Benson winds, and that pitch is up high for a ball, and the count goes to 2-0 as Benson continues to work up in the strike zone, and she's been missing high here in the first.
Gallo knows where to look here. 2-0, should get a pitch to hit if Benson comes into the strike zone.
The wind and the pitch is taken for a strike. Count goes to 2-1.
Benson was able to keep that ball down, a strike right at the knees.
So 2 balls, 1 strike. Now the count on Gallo. Dolphins looking to cash in on a couple of hits here in the first. As that pitch is swung on and hit hard towards second, that's going to be off the glove of Mueller into center field. Coming in to score on the play will be Moore, and the Dolphins take a 1-0 lead. As we'll wait for the scoring on that one, Joe. A hard hit ball up the middle, but the Dolphins take a 1-0 lead.
Well, that ball was hit hard, Mike, but she was squarely in front of it. I think that has to be an error. We'll see how it's scored, and it is an error. So the first run of the game to come home belongs to the Dolphins. It will be unearned, and the College of Staten Island has a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, so the Dolphins get on the board early here in the first, Joe, and you know, this CSI Dolphin team has struggled a little bit to score runs here early in the season, Joe. Good start as both teams committed an error in the first, and the Dolphins take that 1-0 lead.
Well, I was wondering if that Dolphins error would still stand. Apparently what we were told is that something called the look-back rule was the reason why that runner was ruled out heading to second base. So the Dolphins error does remain up on the scoreboard, as the batter will be Jacqueline Cateridge.
So Cateridge. So Gallo at first now. Porcaro at third. The Dolphins with a 1-0 lead. Count 1-0. The pitch, it check swing foul back to the screen, and that'll even the count up at 1-1. Jacqueline batting .278 on the year, 5 of 18 with an RBI. The 1-1 pitch, swing and a miss, 1-2.
I mentioned it during the pregame. Cateridge among the leading hitters on this Dolphins team coming into today's action. She's 4th in batting, has driven in a run, 5 of 18 on the season.
So Cateridge now down in the count, 1-2. The wind and the 1-2 pitch is swung on, fouled back, out of play, and the count will hold at 1-2. So the Mavericks had just committed 10 errors through the first 8 games of the season, but a big 2-out error here in the first gives the Dolphins a 1-0 lead.
And we saw the potential consequences of those run-scoring errors when the Dolphins hosted Deauville.
As that one is grounded to second, Mueller able to play this one and underhanded over to first base for the final out of the inning. But not before the Dolphins pick up a run, 2 hits, an error, 2 left, 1 inning in the books. Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0. We'll step aside and take a break. You're watching women's softball coverage exclusively on your voice of everything CSI Sports, CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
My dad was a soccer coach and bought this little book bag. I could sit in the book bag like facing backwards and with like my legs out. So I'd be in his book bag when my dad coaches and the ball's going around. I'm like kicking at the ball in the back. And my dad was like, "We have a prodigy." So he put me into soccer and it just progressed from there. The catalyst was the opportunity to play soccer at a Division II school. On my team, I thrive to work as hard as I can. I mean, whatever you do on the field, there's a positive correlation to whatever else you do, be it personal relationships, homework, the way you carry yourself. I've changed since I got to King University. It's really helped me to develop as a leader. I think it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened.
We're back getting ready for the bottom half of the second inning. The Dolphins with an unearned run in the first, Joe, to take a 1-0 lead.
And as I was saying before we headed to break, prior to that last out, those errors that bring home unearned runs proving consequential in that Dolphins season opening doubleheader against Deauville. We saw it in CSI's first game of the season, the Dolphins dropping that one to the Saints, but mistakes in the field and on the base paths hurting the Dolphins in that doubleheader. Early in this game, it's an error hurting the Mavericks as the Dolphins will look to clean up their play in the field. They also committed an error in the top half of inning number 1. Fortunately for them, a runner erased on the base paths as a result of the look-back rule being invoked. So the Dolphins lead this one 1-0 heading to the top half of the second inning. And for the Mavericks, it will be 5, 6, and 7 coming to the plate.
Yeah, so that'll be Sydney Johnson, the catcher, to lead off here for Mercy College. Another left-handed bat here for the Mavericks as that first pitch is down low for a ball, 1-0. Johnson batting .368 on the year, 7 of 19, 3 doubles, and 3 RBIs. Corrick winds, and that pitch is on the outside corner for a strike. That'll even the count up at 1-1.
Johnston comes in a .368 hitter. We highlighted some of her numbers at the plate during the pregame.
As that one is swung on and hit hard up the middle, and that'll be in for a base hit. Moore dove over towards the second base bag, Joe, but couldn't get a glove on it, so clean single for Johnson to lead off here in the second.
Good effort by Moore, but not enough to prevent Johnston from picking up her 8th hit of the season in 20 at-bats. That will raise her average to an even 400, and that will bring up Yolanda Bowman.
So Bowman, the batter here. Bowman, the third baseman, as that ball is bunted, foul. As coming in on that ball quickly for the Dolphins, Joe, was Cateridge, but played the ball foul, so no balls and 1 strike, and an early sacrifice attempt by Bowman. Yolanda leading the team in batting as she bunts again as that's picked up and played over towards second base, towards the second baseman, I should say. So the sacrifice is successful. And now the Mavericks with a runner at second base and 1 out.
That ball nearly sailed over the head of Garrett Comohendo covering first base. The throw from Corrick a bit high, but Comohendo using all of her 4'8" frame to reach up and grab that one. And she needed every inch that she had right there to keep that ball in play. And if that one gets into the right field corner, the game is probably tied.
Yeah, you know, that was a really good play that time by Comohendo on the high throw by Corrick. And you know, an interesting decision there early in the game. As you look at Bowman, Joe, and she had come into the at-bat, 9 of 18 on the year.
Interesting to see her bunt, but we saw in baseball a lot of that too. Players with high batting averages being asked to bunt.
As that's a high fastball and a swing and a miss. So quickly, Coric gets ahead of Alyssa Guzman, 0-2.
Perhaps that's out of respect for Coric as well.
Guzman batting .471 on the year, 8 of 17, a homer and 6 RBIs. And the 0-2 off the outside corner, and that'll make the count 1-2.
Also, you have Guzman in the on-deck circle when you attempted that bunt with Bowman. Guzman hitting at .471, 8 of 17. So another very formidable bat right behind Bowman in the order.
Oh, the 1-2 pitch, nice off-speed breaking ball, swing and a miss, strike 3. So Coric getting her third strikeout of the game. And now with 2 outs and a runner on second base, it's going to bring up the right fielder, Ariana Rucci. Ricci in right field here this afternoon. As Coric looks in, the first pitch up high for a ball, 1-0.
Ricci comes in hitless on the season in 3 at-bats. Mavericks looking to her to pick up a big runner in scoring position with 2 away.
Coric winds the pitch just down low for a ball. And Coric behind in the count now, 2-0.
Ricci, not the hitter you want to lose here with Casey Akers standing on deck. She's had 24 at-bats this season, 7 base hits.
As that was a swing and a miss on a nice inside fastball. And Ricci now down in the count. Go ahead of the count, I should say, 2-1. As that ball is swung on and fouled back to the screen, and now count even at 2-2.
Good job by Coric getting back into this at-bat. This is the hitter you want to go after here if you're Coric.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. The pitch, check, swing, strike 3, call. Nice job by Coric as she strikes 2 out here in the second and now has 4 for the game. No runs, a hit, 1 left, 1.5 in the books. Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
Wayne State Medical School has been my dream medical school since I was 5. Athletics are important, but so is service, so is research, so is becoming a better person. And we expect you to do well athletically, but don't forget the reason you're here, which is to give back to your community and to get good grades. It was my sophomore indoor season. It was the first year with our new head coach. And he comes in and he's like, we could be a national contending team if you guys work hard. And I heard him and I was like, well, I want to be a national champion. I want to be an All-American. And I bought in because he bought into our team. And I qualified to go to indoor nationals. I decided I wanted it, so I went and grabbed it.
So we're back here getting ready for the bottom half of the second inning. And, Joe, in 2 innings, 2 defensive changes for the Mavericks.
And the newest change for Mercy College is over at third base. Haley Puglia will come on to play third base, and she replaces the starting third baseman from Mercy College, Alana Bowman.
As that first pitch is taken for a strike, 0-1, and I don't really remember seeing that, Joe. I mean, 2 defensive substitutions. I don't think either player was hurt. As Whalen down in the count now, 0-1, as that pitch is taken for a ball, and that evens the count up at 1-1. Whalen batting .214 on the year, 3 of 14. She has a homer, 2 RBIs, and has scored 4 runs, tied for second on the Dolphins. The 1-1 pitch is up high for a ball, 2-1.
Dolphins with a lot of speed behind Whalen in the bottom of the batting order as well, with Jessica Carrion and Garrett Comohendo on deck and in the hole respectively.
So Benson now down in the count. 2-1. The pitch. He's taken for a ball. 3-1.
If Whalen's able to get on here, I think there's a good chance the Dolphins likely attempt a bunt, perhaps doubling as an attempt for a base hit with Carrion.
3-1. The pitch is swung on and foul back, and that'll run the count full to 3-2.
The count full now. If you're Benson in the circle, you need to be careful here. You mentioned it, Mike. Whalen does have a home run on the season. Can't groove one down the middle, and the Dolphins have a lot of bats like that in this lineup, where if you make a mistake over the heart of the plate, these CSI hitters can make you pay.
So Johnson going out to the mound here, having a little talk with the pitcher. And game moving along methodically here, Joe, through the first inning and a half. And the Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0.
We spoke about it before the game, Mike. I'm using digital stat keeping. One of the advantages, time of game.
As Whalen takes that one down low for a ball, and she'll draw a base on balls. And for Benson, that's her second base on balls here, Joe, in the early going. And really came back to haunt her as she ended up walking Picaro. And that led to the unearned run for the Dolphins on the ground ball by Gallo.
Jessica Carrion, the batter. And as I mentioned, Mike, time of play, I do have that available to me. 32 minutes old this game.
As Carrion bunts that one in front of the plate. Nice job as Johnson gets that ball over to first in time. And that was a very nice defensive play that time, Joe, by Sydney Johnson.
Executed perfectly by Johnston and the Mavericks there, easily recording the out at first, throwing behind the runner at second, Whalen, to make sure she didn't think about trying to advance to third. And if Whalen had strayed a step or two further off that second base bag, there might have been a play over there at second base. But as it stands, Whalen in scoring position, one away, and Garrett Comohendo is the batter.
So Comohendo batting just one hit on the year. She's 1 for 16, batting .063, and the first pitch is taken down low for a ball, 1-0. And, you know, Joe, as these Dolphin players get used to Division II pitching and just get some experience, you would expect their performances to continue to improve.
No doubt about it, Mike. And at the plate right now, Dolphins looking for Comohendo to get on, as that one's chopped foul. But Comohendo, another speed threat, as I mentioned before. She won't be looking to bunt here, but with first base open, if you're Benson in the circle, you need to make sure you go after Comohendo. You don't want to issue a free pass to her, potentially the fastest Dolphin in this lineup.
Yeah, Dolphins looking to get some better production from the bottom part of their lineup here. As the count is 1-1, and that one is nubbed foul. Comohendo falls behind in the count now at 1-2.
Comohendo, as we mentioned, only 1 of 16, but she has drawn 3 walks. She's demonstrated some patience at the plate. Behind in the count here, 1-2. Big out for Benson to get, with Corrick looming in the on-deck circle.
So Benson looking in. The 1-2 pitch is swung on and fouled off over our heads out of play, and the count holds at 1-2. So 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. A runner in scoring position here for the Dolphins as they look to build on their early 1-0 lead. The 1-2 pitch, swing and a miss, strike 3 is Comohendo chasing that high fastball for Benson. That's going to be her first strikeout of the afternoon, second out of the inning, and that's going to take us back to the top of the lineup and the pitcher, Emily Corrick.
Corrick got on in the first inning with an infield single, dribbled one between the circle and third base. Dolphins could use a big 2-out knock here to chase home Whalen from second.
Benson looking in. The first pitch is swung on and grounded to second. Played over to first base by Mueller to Caravas in time for the final out. So the Dolphins threaten but do not score. 1 runner left on base, 2 innings in the books. Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0. We'll step aside, take a break. You're watching women's softball coverage right here on CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
In NCAA Division II, community engagement is an initiative at all 25 national championships because student-athletes want to give back while competing for a national title. Over the course of the year, Division II student-athletes have an opportunity to leave a lasting impression in local communities throughout the country. Whether Division II student-athletes are volunteering at hospitals, schools, after-school care programs, foster homes, or retirement villages, they make a difference in the lives of others. In Division II, we rise to the opportunity and make community engagement ours.
We're back getting ready for the top half of the third inning. And, Joe, the Dolphins in their half of the second were able to get a runner in scoring position, but with less than 2 outs, but couldn't get that big hit they needed for their second run.
Well, they had 2 chances with Whalen over at second base. First, it was Como Hendo, who struck out swinging, and then on the first pitch of her at bat, Emily Korek grounded out to second. It's not often Korek hasn't come through for the Dolphins so far this season. We mentioned it coming in. She's hitting at .333, but we've said it already several times. Her best work this season for the College of Staten Island has been done in the circle. She has kept the Mavericks off of the scoreboard in each of the first 2 innings of this game. She will look to make it 3, as it will be 9-1-2 due up for Mercy College in their half of the third.
So it'll be Casey Akers, Alexis Crawford, and Hannah Mueller here for the Mavericks in their half of the third inning. The Dolphins leading here by a score of 1-0 is the center fielder, Casey Akers, to lead off here. Akers batting .292 on the year, 7 of 24. She scored 5 runs, has a double, 2 doubles, a triple, and 4 RBIs. So Mavericks with a little bit of a good bat, Joe, at the bottom of their lineup here this afternoon.
Well, I mentioned it in the previous inning when the Mavericks were at the plate and a runner in scoring position, and Ariana Ricci was at bat. The Dolphins did not want to face Akers in that spot. It was a big out to get ahead of Akers in the batting order, but now, as a result, the Mavericks get their .292 hitter leading off in the third inning, and she swings through the first pitch she sees for strike 1.
So Korek getting ahead here, 0-1. The wind and the 0-1 pitch is taken for a strike, and that makes the count 0-2. Is Korek getting ahead of the count here in the top half of the third inning. The wind, the 0-2 pitch. Ooh, that was a close one, Joe. Taken just off the plate for a ball. Count goes 1-2.
You can hear the reaction from the Dolphins dugout to our left. We're seated pretty close to both dugouts. I'm actually right on top of the Mercy dugout today with our spaced out setup.
As that ball is swung on and fouled off over the screen, out of play, and the count holds at 1-2.
Korek's been pitching ahead in the count for most of this game so far, and after a 20-pitch first inning for Korek, threw only 14 in the second, despite surrendering a base runner in that inning.
The wind and the pitch is swung on, and that's drilled into right center field, and that's going to be in for a base hit, and that's going to roll all the way to the wall. Whalen fields the ball in, and the Dolphins get the ball back into the infield, but it's going to be a leadoff double here for Casey Akers as the Mavericks are in business, Joe, in their half of the third.
Well, Akers came into today's game with 7 base hits, 3 of those going for extra bases, including a pair of doubles and a triple. She adds another double to that extra base hit tally right there and is in scoring position to open up the third inning, as we may have a substitution upcoming, and we will.
So we'll await the change here for the Mavericks.
Mike, it's going to be Angelina Akendo pinch hitting at the top of the batting order for Alexis Crawford.
So our third substitution, Joe, in 2 innings plus here for the Mavericks. As Angelina Oquendo comes in, as you mentioned, Joe. As Oquendo fouls that one back to the screen, and the count goes 0-1.
Could it be that Akendo was brought on as a bunter at the top of the batting order. Typically, your leadoff hitter is adept at laying down bunts or slapping the ball over toward third base, but it looks like they brought Oquendo in to bunt.
DeWine, and the pitch is bunted and then waved at for a strike, 0-2.
She was way late on that one by squaring up, basically gave away a strike.
No balls, 2 strikes. And the 0-2 pitch is taken just off the plate for a strike, 1-2. As Corrick looking in for the sign. And the 1-2 pitch is swung on and missed, strike 3. And 1 out now and a runner on second base as Oquendo comes in to pinch hit, can't lay down the bunt, and then strikes out and didn't look particularly good, Joe, on the 2 swings she did take. And interesting decision that time, Joe, by the Mavericks and head coach Mike Fazio. And as that's going to be the second out of the inning here, as running over to third base will be Akers. And now 2 outs and a runner at third, and that'll bring up the shortstop, Danielle Burgess.
This is a big at-bat for the Mavericks here, still trailing in this game by 1. Corrick's been great in the circle once again, and they may not get many more of these chances as she gets further and further into her rhythm.
As that first pitch, an off-speed breaking pitch for a strike, 0-1. Burgess reached on an error by the shortstop, Elizabeth Moore, in the first, so she's 0-1. And that pitch is up high for a ball, and that evens the count up at 1-1. Is that time Corrick tried to get a little bit extra, Joe, and
she sure did.
Was a little high.
She's coming up toward 50 pitches now. This is number 47.
The 1-1 pitch is swung on, drilled down the left field line, is coming over, but unable to make a play on the ball will be carry on, and now Corrick will be ahead in the count at 1-2.
I said it before, Corrick has been pitching from ahead in the count most of this game, and so far it has been advantage Corrick in all of those spots. Can go to one of those high fastballs, as we just saw. She can get a lot on that pitch, but that drop pitch down in the zone has had the Mavericks way out in front.
The 1-2 pitch up high for a ball, 2-2, and you know, anytime that Corrick has missed the plate, Joe, has pretty much been when she's tried to get a little bit extra, and she's been high on some of these pitches. The pitch is swung on and popped up in the air, foul, and the count holds at 2-2.
Well, Mike, I think I may have to get that defensive alignment for you between innings. I'm the only one who's getting under there.
Yeah. So 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs and a runner on third. Big moment in the game for Corrick and the Dolphins. The 2-2 pitch taken on the outside corner, strike 3. So Corrick gets out of the jam as she strikes out her 6th Maverick of the afternoon. No runs, a hit, 1 left, 2.5 innings in the books. Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0. We'll step aside and take a break, and we'll be right back.
For me, just kind of was the glue that kept my family together, I feel like. I don't know what it was that drew me in, but after I started playing for a while and started seeing some early success as a little kid, to see how much it meant to my parents to see me play the game and try to make a difference was really what fueled me to keep playing and stay competitive. Being a triple major is not necessarily easy, but at the same time it is what you make it. Being a tighter-knit university, I have a lot of classes with the same professors, so they know me pretty well. I think it's that personal relationship that really helped me to thrive as a student. I was able to come here and get my triple major, as well as play a super high level of baseball against some of the best players in the country. There's a lot of options here in Division II with a lot of great ball players and a lot of great people, and they make sure that they give you every opportunity to succeed on and off the field.
We're back getting ready for the bottom half of the third inning, and a nice job by Corrick that time to get out of trouble, Joe, in the top of the third.
Well, you said it to wrap up the inning, Mike. Corrick now with 6 punch-outs in her 3 innings of work, and she has looked firmly in control so far.
Swung on, grounded over to first base, played there by Caraveras, and she'll step on the bag for the out. So Moore grounds out unassisted for the first out of the inning, and that'll bring up the third baseman, Samantha McPherson.
Well, McPherson didn't get on in her first at-bat, but she drilled one toward the right field corner just short of the warning track as McPherson leads this Dolphins team in hitting, as we said during the pregame.
We're back getting ready for the top half of the fourth inning. The Dolphins leading by a score of 1-0. Both teams with 2 hits and an error. But, Joe, the Dolphins able to take advantage of a 2-out error for the 1 run of the game.
Well, that's just it, Mike. The Dolphins took advantage of the miscue in the field by the Mavericks, and right now that's the difference in the game as Alexandra Caraveras will get her first at-bat for Mercy College after coming in as a defensive replacement.
So Caraveras takes the first pitch down low for a ball, 1-0. Caraveras, one of 3 substitutions for the Mavericks here early in the game as she replaced Samantha Frank at first base. Caraveras, right-handed batter, heading to count 1-0. The pitch is taken at Denise for a strike, and that'll even the count up at 1-1.
And we do apologize if any of our viewers lost connection to the broadcast feed. We realized we were off the air for a few moments, but we think we have everything back up and running right now.
The wind and the off-speed pitch is Caraveras way out in front. And a swing and a miss, and the count goes to 1-2.
Caraveras comes in 1 of 5 on the season at the plate and even 200. She's drawn a couple of walks as well.
As that time, Corrick's pitched down low, and she's bounced a couple of pitches here, Joe, to start the top half of the fourth. And you mentioned a lot of pitches thrown early in the game now by Emily. As it'll be a swing and a miss, strike 3 as Caraveras goes down on strikes, and Corrick continues to pile up the strikeouts, Joe.
Yep, that's number 7 right there. And you mentioned the pitch count, Mike. There's no reason to believe this game would come to a close after 5. So if the Dolphins rely on Corrick for all 7 innings, her pitch count is going to get up there late in this game. But I think that regardless of where it's at, unless it gets completely unreasonable, she will be the option in the circle.
So Sydney Johnson will be the batter. Johnson singled in the second. She's 1 for 1 here on the afternoon. One of the 2 hits for the Mavericks here this afternoon. Corrick winds the pitch. Taken just up high for a ball, and Corrick falls behind in the count 2-0. I think that's the first 2-0 count of the afternoon, Joe.
You may be right, Mike, but 2-0 count certainly a rarity for Corrick in the circle, especially 3-0.
So 3-0 the count now. Corrick has walked one in this game already. She came into the game walking just 8 batters through 23 innings. But down in the count now, 3-0 to the left-handed hitter Johnson, who takes that pitch down low for a ball 4.
Well, I'm not sure I've ever seen a pitcher respond so well to disagreeing with calls. Every time Corrick disagrees with any call, she has the biggest smile on her face when she gets the ball back and seems to be laughing about it every time a call doesn't go her way. I'm not sure I'd be so subdued in my reaction.
So Haley Puglia will be the batter. Puglia, a substitution at third base for Bowman, as Puglia bunts that one foul and falls behind in the count 0-1. And you know, another substitution. Bowman 9 of 18, batting .500. Puglia coming into today's game 3 of 19 at 158. Joe. The wind, Puglia squares to bunt again. It's popped up in the air. As that time both McPherson and Gallo went for the ball. McPherson able to make the play. So Puglia on the bunt pops up to the third baseman for the second out. No advance for Johnson. And now with 2 outs and a runner on first base, it'll bring up the left fielder, Alyssa Guzman.
Well, if you're the Mavericks, you hate to see that, giving away a free out. Once again, they try and move a runner into scoring position against Corrick. This time they failed to do so, and it's left to Guzman.
So Guzman swings and fouls that one back to the screen. She's down the count 0-1. Alyssa struck out in the second. She's 0 for 1. Guzman in left field here this afternoon for the Mavericks. The pitch, off-speed breaking pitch, swing and a miss by Guzman for a strike. She's down in the count now, 0-2, and Corrick's shown the ability, Joe, not only to show that off-speed pitch, but to get it over the plate for a strike, and has had the Mavericks out in front of it all afternoon.
She has, and it's been a great breaking ball that she's had working for her in this game as she misses right there with the 0-2 pitch. But Corrick has had hitters off balance all season long. It has been no different in this game. And with a lot of these substitutions, Mavericks hitters aren't all getting a second look at Corrick right now in this past two through the batting order.
So 1 ball, 2 strikes. The pitch swung on and fouled back. Guzman, a nice whip at that one, but fouls it back to the screen, and the count holds at 1-2. Ariana Ricci, the right fielder, is on deck. Corrick winds the pitch, off-speed breaking pitch, swing and a miss, strike 3. So Corrick has struck out 2 batters in every inning so far this afternoon. She has 8 on the game, and the Mavericks are down in their half of the 4th inning. No runs, no hits, a walk, 1 left, 3.5 in the book. We're back getting ready for the bottom half of the 4th inning. The Dolphins leading in this game by a score of 1-0. And, neither team with much offense here this afternoon, Joe, but the Dolphins able to take advantage in their half of the 2nd inning. That leadoff, infield single, Corrick gets caught stealing, but Moore able to reach base and ultimately come around to score the only run of the game so far this afternoon, Joe.
Well, if you told me this game would be 1-0 heading into the bottom half of the 4th inning, I'm not sure I would have believed it. These two teams, certainly a pair of teams that could put runs up on the scoreboard. We mentioned the Mavericks are unbeaten in East Coast Conference play so far this season, but right now, the College of Staten Island giving them all they can handle entering the bottom half of the 4th inning.
So it'll be Isabel Gallo, Jacqueline Cateridge, and Victoria Whalen for the Dolphins. As Gallo ahead in the count 1-0, and it was Gallo who hit that ball to second base, Joe, and reached on the error that brought home the only run of the game so far here this afternoon.
And that error right now looming large over the Mavericks, but they'll have at least 3 more chances to get even or take the lead in this one. And if they don't put any runs up on the scoreboard, they really can't blame that one error for the position they'll find themselves in the late innings of this game.
The wind and the pitch is taken for a ball, 2-1. As Benson working in her 4th inning here this afternoon. Finds herself down in the count 2-1. As the right-hander ready, the 2-1 pitch is taken up high for a ball, 3-1.
Certainly don't want to put the leadoff batter on via the base on balls here, especially Gallo, who comes in hitting right now, right around 100.
Has a little bit of a conference out at the mound. As we're in the bottom half of the 4th inning. As Benson getting ready for the 3-1 pitch. And the pitch is swung on and drilled down the right field line, drifting foul and out of play, and that will run the count full to 3-2. Turned out to be a beautiful day here at the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins in their 2nd home game of this 2021 season. Their first year as a participant in the ECC Conference. Still provisional as that one is grounded hard up the middle, and that will be a base hit. And that time Gallo did a nice job, Joe, on that 3-2 pitch, staying with it and just taking the ball right back up the middle.
Well, that's how you turn your season at the plate around right there. A tremendous at-bat from Gallo, who got ahead in the count. Eventually the count run full, but she takes that pitch right back up the middle, hitting it where it was pitched, up in through the middle of the Mavericks defense and into center, leading off the bottom of the 4th for the Dolphins, and that will bring up Jacqueline Cateridge.
So Cateridge will be the batter. Cateridge 0 for 1. She grounded to second in the 1st, and our only other at-bat here this afternoon. And the Dolphins with a 1-0 lead. Let's see if they play some small ball as Caterage squares around to bunt, but takes it high for a ball, 1-0.
Well, there was an appeal on the base pads. I wish I could tell you exactly why.
They was checking to see if it was a strike.
Oh, I thought they were checking to see maybe she left early.
Yeah, nope, checking for a strike. So
Okay.
It's 1-0. The 1-0 pitch. And it looks like she pulled the bat back on that one. And now the count 2-0 is we're going to have another little bit of a instruction that time given out by Johnson for the Mavericks.
Dolphins are trying to give Mercy an out right here, and Mavericks don't want it as they've missed it 2 straight. See if Caterage is still bunting.
She shows the bunt. She bunts it foul, and the count goes to 2-1. As Benson trying to throw that high heat, Joe, and, make it difficult to bunt. And that time, Caterage couldn't get the bunt down and fouled it back, and the count goes to 2-1.
I'm often surprised by the reluctance of players who were initially asked to bunt to be given the swing sign on 2-0.
She shows bunt once again and fouls it off once again, and that evens the count up at 2-2.
Well, Caterage will certainly be swinging now, you would think.
Dolphins with just one successful sacrifice on the year, Joe.
With the amount of bunts I've seen this Dolphins team attempt, that's a bit surprising. And we've only covered now at CSI Softball Complex about 18 innings of Dolphins softball to this point.
The 2-2 pitch, he shows bunt once again and fouls it off for strike 3. And some interesting decisions on both sides of the coaching box here, Joe. Early in this game and in this season is that time Caterage attempting to bunt with 2 strikes, fouls it off, and that will be a strikeout. And now that will be the 3rd strikeout for Benson, and with 1 out and a runner still on first base, that will bring up the right fielder, Victoria Whalen. Whalen walked in the 2nd, so she hasn't had an official at-bat so far here this afternoon.
I completely get trying to bunt the runner into scoring position, but I was a bit surprised by the bunt with 2 strikes. Thought Caterage might be swinging the bat. I mentioned earlier in the game, she comes in the team's 4th leading hitter. Instead, retired without taking a swing.
So Whalen now the batter. Still batting .214 on the season. The pitch is swung on and blooped up in the air. And there is the first baseman, Caraveras, to make the catch for the 2nd out.
And I think Caraveras tried to drop that ball at the last second, maybe step on first base and then tag the runner out next to her, but it was a bit too late, Mike.
Yeah, that's a tough play. And they took the short out, always a good idea. Right now with 2 outs for the Dolphins, it's going to bring up the left fielder, Jessica Caron. Benson looking in. The first pitch is down low for a ball, 1-0. Jessica had the 2nd Dolphin sacrifice of the year, so I misspoke before, Joe. I said they just had 1. They should have 2. I believe that one in the 2nd was credited as a sacrifice, as that pitch is taken on the outside corner for a strike, and that'll even the count up at 1-1.
When Carrion came to the plate after Whalen had walked back in the 2nd, I said that sacrifice attempt doubling as an attempt for a base hit. Carrion showed bunt on that last pitch right there with 2 outs here in the 4th.
So 1 ball, 1 strike to count. The pitch is taken up high and inside for a ball, 2-1.
That last pitch puts both pitchers in this game over 60. This next pitch, number 62 for Alexi Benson. Corrick will enter the 5th at 64 pitches for the Dolphins.
Yeah, both pitchers working hard this afternoon, grinding out the innings. As that pitch is bunted on and missed, and that'll even the count up at 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs once again here in the bottom half of the 4th inning. The wind and the pitch is up high for a ball, 3-2. And pitchers have done a nice job, Joe. Both offenses have been pretty quiet. No extra base hits here this afternoon. The difference so far, a 2-out error. And that's given the Dolphins that 1-0 lead.
Couple of free passes, then a free base on the error.
As that pitch is taken, strike 3 call. So Carrion goes down looking for the 3rd strike, and the Dolphins are retied in their half of the 4th inning. No runs, a hit, 1 left, 4 innings in the books. Dolphins lead by a score of 1-0. We'll step aside and take a break. You're watching women's softball right here on CSI Sportsnet on the ECC network, CSIDolphins.com.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly,
we're back as that ball is laced into left field, and that's going to be in for a base hit, and that's going to bring the Mavericks within a run as Danielle Burgos takes that pitch and drills it down the left field line for the first run of the game as Mueller comes all the way around to score. And just like that, Joe, it's a 2-1 Dolphin lead, and the Mavericks threatening with a runner at second base and nobody out.
Well, what a way to come back from our forced break, a break forced by technical difficulties as the campus Wi-Fi is giving us problems right now. And hopefully we're with you the rest of the way as the Mavericks are mounting a rally here in the 6th inning. Nobody out. Alexandra Caravallas at the plate. Standing on second is Burgos, who, as Mike just mentioned, doubled in the first Mavericks run of the game. Dolphins clinging to a 1-run lead.
Yeah, so it was a 2-2 count on Hannah Mueller, and then Mueller able to bloop one into center field, and then Burgos on a 2-1 pitch able to drill that ball down the left field line, and now for the Dolphins, Corick finds herself down in the count 2-0, and she hasn't been as sharp here in the 6th, Joe.
No, we've seen these pitches sailing high every time she tries to put some velocity on the ball, and her fastball just hasn't found the strike zone often in this inning. And once again now behind in the count 3-0. The next pitch from Corick, number 82. She still has 6 more outs to get through this game for the Dolphins, and that tying run now stands over at third base.
Yeah, and I scored that a wild pitch, Joe. I'm not sure what official statistician Dave Pizzuto calling it a pass ball on the play, is that time Gallo able to get a glove on it but not hold it. So now the count goes 3-1 on Caravallas, and Caravallas 0 for 1 on the afternoon. She struck out after replacing Samantha Frank in the first inning, Joe, but all of a sudden Corick having a hard time finding the strike zone.
And that has to be troubling if you're a fan of the Dolphins or a member of the CSI coaching staff. And right now the Mavericks have to be ready to pounce on anything close in the strike zone. 3-0 count. Of course, you'd love to see that go-ahead run issued a free pass, but if Corick comes in, you have to think Caravallas is swinging.
The wind and the pitch is taken up high for a ball 4. So a single, a double, and a base on balls as the Dolphins throw the ball around the infield, and now Caraveras down on second base. So now the tying run at third, the go-ahead run at second base, still nobody out, and that's going to bring up the catcher, Sidney Johnson.
The Dolphins right now look like they're going to play corners in here to make sure a bunt doesn't bring home the run, but if they have the chance for a double play, you have to think they'll concede that tying run over at third base.
Second and third. Still no one out here. As Johnson takes that ball down, that pitch down for a ball. Johnson 1 for 1 on the afternoon. She singled and walked. The pitch is swung on and blooped up in the air in short right field. As that time a collision occurs between Coahendo and Whalen. A run will score. Another runner will go down to second base, and we're now tied at 2. As Johnson able to bloop that one into the outfield, that'll probably be scored a base. It's going to be scored an error.
That's an error
on the second baseman. And now, just like that, the game is tied at 2. Still no one out, and the Mavericks with runners at second and third.
That's as unfortunate a break for the Dolphins as there could be right there. As Whalen was coming in on that ball, it was her ball. Coahendo wasn't sure if Whalen would get there. She tried to make an over-the-shoulder catch, what would have been a very difficult play, and I think she took a shot to the face from Whalen's glove, and Whalen was coming in on that ball, charging it. I don't think the Mavericks were going to score a run on that play via the sacrifice fly. That was probably best-case scenario for the Dolphins, and that gets disrupted by the collision, and now the go-ahead run stands on third, another runner in scoring position at second, still nobody out. And, Mike, I turned my head away from the action for one moment. How did the runner go from first to second?
Well, what happened was the runner came off of third base a little bit. The Dolphins foolishly threw the ball down to third, and then that allowed at the time was the go-ahead run to get over to second base. So Yolanda Bowman back in the game, Joe, as she will come up and she will bat for Puglia. So Bowman back in the game and ahead in the count now, 1-0 is Corrick has lost the strike zone here, Joe, in the sixth. As that pitch is ripped down the left field line, foul and out of play. And that's going to even the count up 1-1. Bowman had a good rip at that pitch, Joe, and just missed a 2-run double.
Yeah, and you're right, Mike, about Corrick having trouble finding the strike zone right now. The count 1-1 right here, but her missing the zone in this inning really set the table for the Mavericks. They've been hitting from ahead in the count. Free passes issued, and Corrick finds herself in severe trouble.
As that pitch is taken outside for a ball, 2-1, and Corrick had pitched very effectively and actually had her best inning in the fifth, Joe, and got out of the inning, I think, on 4 pitches. But here in the sixth, she's really struggled, and she's now down in the count 3-1.
Well, she would have had the first out on that pop fly, and the runner probably would have had to hold at third.
The pitch. Off-speed breaking ball taken on the outside corner for a strike, and that runs the count full to Bowman at 3-2. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch swung on and missed. I should say swung on and fouled off. Count holds 3-2, and Bowman had a good rip at that one, Joe, but just fouled it back to the screen.
She sure did, Mike. I've been thinking about it. If Corrick is able to get this out, do you consider walking the bases loaded?
You might. As that pitch is taken on the outside corner, strike 3 call. Big strikeout there. First out of the inning here for the Mavericks, and with runners at second and third, it'll bring up the left fielder, Alyssa Guzman. Guzman 0 for 2, Joe. She struck out both times in the second and the fourth.
Well, it's decision time for Eric Kraut. I don't believe he issued any walk signs, so at the very least, Guzman will see a couple of pitches.
As that pitch is taken up high for a ball, 1-0 is Corrick lofted that one back to the screen. Dolphins fortunate to set up at the CSI softball complex, Joe, making it tough for runners to score from third on that kind of pass ball.
Well, there's the case for not walking the bases loaded, Mike, as Corrick has sailed several fastballs up high and out of the strike zone in this half inning.
1-0 the count. Duh. Pitch swing and a miss, 1-1. Good fastball that time.
And when she's thrown the fastball by these hitters, it has been right by them. And really, it's been any fastball in the strike zone has been overpowering.
1-1 the count. Duh. Pitch, off-speed, breaking pitch, swing and a miss for a strike. That's going to make the count 1-2.
If Korek picks up this strikeout, it will undoubtedly be her biggest punch out of the game.
1-2 the count. Duh. Pitch is bunted back to the mound. Throw to the plate. And the tag is made for the second out. As that time, Guzman bunted the ball back. And on the fielder's choice, 1-2. Caraveras will be thrown out at the plate for the second out. Guzman will go to first. Johnson will be at third. And now with 2 outs, it's going to bring up the right fielder, Ariana Ricci.
Nicely done there by the Dolphins as the Mavericks, facing a 2-strike count, tried to bunt the run in and catch the Dolphins by surprise. They bunted it to the one place where that would not be successful, right back to the circle. Huge second out. And now Korek with a chance to escape without surrendering the lead.
Let's see if she can get the final batter. As Ricci, the batter, she's 0 for 2. Struck out and grounded to second. And the first pitch taken for a ball. And they attempt to steal. Now the Dolphins have it in the rundown. And the plate, and the tag is made by McPherson for the final out. So we'll wait for the official scoring. But that time, Johnson thrown out, attempting to try the double steal for home. It's going to be 2-6-3 for the putout and the final out of the inning. So the Mavericks score 2. They tie it up. 5.5 in the books. Dolphins 2, Mavericks 2. We'll step aside, take a break. You're watching women's softball coverage on CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
Hobra, a taco joint, Staten Island, where we're proud to have shared our family-first spirit with people from throughout New York City and the world. With indoor dining available both at the bar and on the floor. Or step outside for additional seating and an outdoor bar. Serving beer that's crisp, ice cold, and worthy of a day at the beach. Cocktails that explode with flavor. And great food made with the freshest and healthiest ingredients available. Events feature food and drink specials. Live music. And the best of Staten Island nightlife. Your CSI Student ID saves you 10% on your dining order at Hobra. Visit us at 412 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
We're back getting ready for the bottom half of the 6th inning. And, Joe, the Dolphins and Emily Korek were cruising along, but 2 runs by the Mavericks in the 6th have tied this game up at 2.
And not to be lost in that half inning. First of all, I think ultimately Korek gets charged with 1 earned run, as only 1 run came in to score. I don't think the run would have scored were it not for the error. I'm checking my official line. No, the run is earned right now according to my box score, but we'll check with the official stats. Either way, what a job to limit the damage to 2 by Korek in the circle.
The wind and the pitch to Gallo is off the outside corner for a ball, 1-1. So it'll be Gallo, Cateridge, and Whaling for the Dolphins in their half of the 6th inning. Isabel 1 for 2 on the afternoon. She's reached base twice. Error by the second baseman and a single to center. She's 1 for 2, and she's now 2 for 3 as she rips that one into left field for a base hit. So Gallo, who was struggling a little bit at the plate, has looked very good at the plate, Joe, for the Dolphins here this afternoon.
She absolutely has. The last 2 balls she's hit have been ropes into the outfield, 1 on the ground right back up the middle. That one ripped into left, and I did double-check the official stats, Mike. It's 1 earned run charged to Korek, so I'm not sure where I went wrong on my stat sheet, but only one of those 2 runs that came home for the Mavericks earned. Score knotted up at 2. Dolphins with a leadoff base runner in the bottom of the 6th.
So Jacqueline Cateridge will be the batter. Cateridge 0 for 2. She grounded to second and struck out attempting to bunt in the 4th.
And I think she'll be attempting to bunt again here, Mike.
The wind and the pitch is taken for a strike. The throw down to second base is in time for the out, and that's the 3rd time this afternoon, Joe, that the Dolphins have been caught stealing on the base pads.
Well, I'm not sure if it was a bad jump by Gallo, a missed sign by Cateridge, who possibly was supposed to bunt, but that play at second wasn't even close. The throw was a good throw. Wasn't a perfect throw. It was on the shortstop side of the bag, and it didn't matter as it was in with plenty of time for them to tag out Gallo for the first out of the inning.
So 0-1 the count on Cateridge with no one on and one out as that pitch is taken up high for a ball, and that evens the count up at 1-1.
I think that's the second time the Dolphins have had a leadoff base runner erased via the caught stealing, Mike. Back in the first, Corrick reached to open the game and was promptly erased trying to steal second.
The wind and the pitch is swung on and grounded off the third base bag, and turning around and trying to throw the ball over to first base is Bowman, but Cateridge will reach first base. And, you know, Joe, I'm just looking at my scorecard here really quick. That's actually the third time they've had the leadoff runner thrown out in the first, in the fifth, and the sixth. The Dolphins have gotten a leadoff runner on and had them thrown out, attempted to steal, as now Cateridge with a base hit. And now the Dolphins with 2 hits in the inning, but just one runner on and one out. And Victoria Whalen, the right fielder, will be the batter.
And, Mike, you know what the following batter did after each caught stealing? They singled. So the Dolphins have run themselves out of runners in scoring position 3 times already in this game.
So Whalen, the batter. Whalen has walked and popped up to first base. She's 0 for 1. Benson looking in for the sign. The pitch. It's taken for a strike. 0-2.
It's been advantage Dolphins at the plate in this game. Perhaps a lot of it could be attributed to Emily Corrick in the circle, but the Dolphins out hitting the Mavericks right now 7-4. So the Dolphins have had a couple of infield dribblers go for hits in this game already.
No balls, 2 strikes. The pitch, swing and a miss, strike 3. So Whalen goes out on strikes on 3 pitches for the second out, and with 2 outs and a runner at first base, it'll be the left fielder, Jessica Carrion.
Carrion looking for her first base hit of the game, laid down a sacrifice and struck out in her first 2 plate appearances. And Goret Comahendo is on deck after she took a shot in the field during the previous half inning. Did remain in the game, so that's not much of a surprise.
The wind and the pitch is taken on the outside corner for a strike, 0-1. So that time Jessica kind of running up toward the first baseline as she's attempting to swing. Makes it very tough to handle that pitch on the outside part of the plate, Joe, as she's now down in the count, 0-2.
Well, she's trying to slap the ball in that direction and get a running start towards first base, but with 2 outs, the corners are in, protecting against that slapper on the left side. She'd have to poke one through the hole between short and third to make something of it here.
0-2 the count. The pitch is swung on and grounded foul. Count holds at 0-2. First of 2 here this afternoon. Dolphins led this one through the 6th inning. And the Mavericks able to put 2 up in their half of the 6th. Dolphins trying to respond in their half. The wind and the pitch is swung on and blooped in the air over the head of the third baseman, but foul. And that's going to hold the count at 0-2.
And that last pitch evens up the pitch count for both sides at 96 pitches. Benson for the Mavericks and Corrick for the Dolphins.
Yeah, both pitchers forced to work here this afternoon, Joe, and some of that of their own doing. Dolphins with 2 errors on the afternoon as that pitch is down low for a ball, and that's going to run the count to 1-2.
At the very least, Carrion is going to make Benson work for the third out of this bottom half of the 6th inning. Next pitch will be the 6th of the at-bat.
Benson working deliberately here in the 6th. And the 1-2 pitch is swung on and rolled slowly towards second. Coming in and not able to make the play is going to be Mueller. As she took a little too long to get to that ball. It's going to be an infield hit for Carrion, and the Dolphins now with runners at first and second, 2 out. And that's going to bring up the second baseman, Gorick Cormiendo, and Dolphins looking for a big hit here, Joe, with 2 outs.
Well, Gorett was charged with the error in the previous half inning, could easily make up for that right now with a big base knock. And going back to that last dribbler on the infield, once again, another infield hit for the Dolphins. If Benson doesn't allow that ball to roll by and she fields it herself, I think she had to play at first base, being a right-handed thrower. The ball was to her left, of course, the glove on the left hand. I think she could have made that play herself. Instead, she perhaps underestimated the speed of Carrion running to first and lost the play.
Yeah, and, Joe, looking out on the field, we see the Dolphins huddling up on the third baseline and the Mavericks huddling up on the mound. And
it's been a day full of conferences, Mike.
It's first and second, 2 out. It should be a situation that both teams kind of know what they need to do here, Joe.
Well, we've seen a lot of discussion going on, especially for the Mercy College side in this game. And while we were off the air, they had a conference among the players with no coaches and then returned to their positions. Coaches then came out onto the field and joined the conference. And I thought we should be expecting a pitching change. Maybe they were buying some time for someone warming up. And that is not what happened, as they had a word with the players on the mound. And the coach returned, or I should say in the circle, and the coach returned to the dugout. And that was it. So we'll see what happens here. It looks like no changes upcoming, and it will be Benson pitching to Comuhendo when the action resumes.
Yeah, and, I'm not even sure what was going on there, Joe, but the infield umpire just made the safe signal, so they were discussing some type of possible violation, and Comuhendo now coming up to the plate. She walked and struck out. She's 0 for 1 officially, as the Dolphins have the go-ahead run at second base with 2 outs here in the bottom half of the 6th, and the first pitch is taken for a strike, 0-1.
Comuhendo 0 for 1 in the game. She struck out swinging and then walked.
Ricci, Akers, and Oquendo, 8-9-1, scheduled for the Mavericks in their half of the 7th. And the pitch to Comuhendo is swung on and missed, and Gorett down in the count now, 0-2. Two on, 2 out, 0-2. Comuhendo. Dolphins and Mavericks tied at 2 here in the bottom of the 6th. The pitch down low for a ball. And that'll make the count 1-2. Benson working very deliberately here. And the pitch is high and outside for a ball. That's going to even the count up at 2-2.
Comuhendo working her way back into this at-bat. And if she could get it back to the top of the Dolphins' batting order, it will be Emily Corrick getting a chance to help her own cause. If not, Corrick presumably would lead off the bottom half of the 7th.
The wind and the pitch to Comuhendo is taken. Strike 3 call is that time Benson able to get the high strike, and Comuhendo leaves 2 runners on. So for the Dolphins in their half of the 6th, no runs, 3 hits, 2 left, 6 in the books. We're tied at 2. We'll step aside, take a break. You're watching women's softball coverage on CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
We're back getting ready for the top half of the 7th inning. And, Joe, the Dolphins with 3 hits in their half of the 6th inning, but a big caught stealing and a couple of big strikeouts by Alexi Benson kept this game knotted at 2.
Well, I talked about it during the pregame, Mike. Defensive miscues, part of the reason the Dolphins dropped a pair of games to D'Youville in their season opening doubleheader here at the CSI Softball Complex back on March 30th. But the other reason they failed to pick up a victory in either of those two games was base running miscues. And I'm not sure you could call them miscues in this one. They've just failed to steal second base 3 times, and the following batter singled each of those 3 times. And that last half inning, it could have been the difference between the Dolphins getting on the scoreboard and taking the lead or entering the 7th inning tied. And as it stands, 2-2 entering the 7th.
And, you know, Joe, the Dolphins were 4 for 4 in stolen bases before this afternoon. 0 for 3 so far this afternoon as Ariana Ricci, the right fielder, leads off and takes that pitch for a ball, and that evens the count up at 1-1. Ricci, Akers, and Oquendo here in the top half of the 7th inning as Ariana takes that one down low for a ball, and that's going to run the count to 2-1.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, there had to be an error in the live stats somewhere because I'm certain the Dolphins were caught stealing in that first game of the season. So whoever was keeping the stats missed it. But you're right. It does say 4 for 4, and that is definitely not correct.
So there you go. So the count now on Ricci, even 2-2. Corrick looking to bounce back after that 6th inning where she struggled, but she was able to get 2 big outs when she needed them, as that ball is ripped in between third and short for a base hit, as Ricci, who was 0 for 2, rips that one hard into left field for a base hit. And, you know, there's no question, Joe, that Corrick has really lost a little bit off of her pitching here in the last couple of innings.
Yeah, she's up over 100 pitches now, so I can't really blame her. She had to work very hard in the previous inning as well, and I spoke about it earlier in the game. You know, you didn't want to pitch to Akers, and Ricci was the out to get, but it's Ricci who comes through here, leading off the 7th with a hard-hit single through the left side, and we may have a pinch runner over at first. That will be the case, and the batter will be Casey Akers, the runner at first. You don't know if you have that, Mike. It'll be Mia Harris.
So Amelia Harris will go in to run for Ricci. So Harris will be the pinch runner. I'm assuming Ricci will come back to play right field. So we'll have a pinch runner here. And that's going to bring up Casey Akers. Akers doubled and popped to second. She's 1 for 2. The wind and the first pitch is taken for a strike. 0-1. I'll tell you, Joe, the way that Corrick has been struggling and Akers has been hitting, I would have her swinging away.
Just not the kind of game we've watched, Mike. It's just not the way this game has been coached, not the way the game is typically coached. That's not a knock on either of the coaches. It's just not the way that this game has been played today and not the way softball's typically played, as we've seen this year after year here at the CSI Softball Complex.
1-1 the count. The pitch is bunted foul. And now Akers is down in the count at 1-2. Nice pitch that time by Corrick, making it tough to bunt.
Well, Mike, how many sacrifices have actually been successful in this game? I know the Dolphins had one. That may be the only successful bunt.
I think there was a successful bunt in the second for Bowman.
I'll tell you right now how many sacrifices have been successful.
So 2 balls, 2 strikes, no one out. As Corrick looking in, the 2-2 pitch. Off-speed breaking pitch taken for a strike, and then attempting to steal second is Harris, and she's going to be thrown out. So it's going to be a strikeout and a caught-stealing 2-6, and just like that, the Mavericks find themselves with 2 runners out and no one on here in their half of the 7th. And Alexis Crawford will be back in the game to bat.
Well, Mike, I can't say I'm too surprised as a strike him out, throw him out double play records the first 2 outs of the inning for the Dolphins. 2 huge outs is now, if they can get through Crawford, we will have the Dolphins coming to the plate with a chance to win it in the bottom of the 7th, but 1 big out left to get as Corrick's now up to 106 pitches in the game. Crawford was 0 for 1 before she was removed from the game. Struck out swinging in her only plate appearance.
So both Bowman and Crawford pulled out of the game and re-entered as that pitch is bounced, 2 bounces back to the mound. Played there by Corrick. She underhands it over to first base in time for the final out. So the Mavericks able to get their leadoff runner on, but that's it. No damage done. Nothing across. We head into the bottom half of the 7th, tied at 2. We'll step aside, take a break, and we'll be right back.
My dad was a soccer coach and bought this little book bag. I could sit in the book bag like facing backwards and with like my legs out. So I'd be in his book bag when my dad coaches and the ball's going around. I'm like kicking at the ball in the back. And my dad was like, "We have a prodigy." So he put me into soccer and it just progressed from there. The catalyst was the opportunity to play soccer at a Division II school. On my team, I thrive to work as hard as I can. I mean, whatever you do on the field, there's a positive correlation to whatever else you do, be it personal relationships, homework, the way you carry yourself. I've changed since I got to King University. It's really helped me to develop as a leader. I think it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened.
We're back, and we're getting ready now for the bottom half of the 7th inning as Corrick allowed the leadoff runner on, but the Mavericks running themselves out of the inning with a strikeout, caught stealing, Joe, giving the Dolphins an opportunity to win this one here in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, the Mavericks certainly helped out Emily Corrick with that strike him out, throw him out, double play. Corrick's pitch count now well over 100. She's at 107, but she's able to escape the 6th inning and now gets a chance to lead things off in the 7th. Her team with an opportunity to win it.
So Corrick, that ball is going to bounce foul, and a little bit of a break that time for the Mavericks as Corrick kind of popped that one up in the air into no man's land, Joe. No one could get it, but the backspin took it foul, and the count on Corrick 0-1.
Well, the Mavericks looked very indecisive on that play. I thought they had an easy out. Turns out they didn't, and then wisely did not make contact with the ball because that was a base hit all the way if they had touched it. So great heads-up play by Johnston behind the plate.
So Benson versus Corrick, they've been battling each other all afternoon long. It's been a good one. And the pitch is swung on and grounded towards shortstop, played there by Burgos. And the throw to first is wide, and turning the corner and heading into second will be Corrick as she's going to reach base here to lead off the bottom half of the 7th inning. I'm going to assume that's an error on the shortstop. E6. And Corrick leads off on second base, and that's going to bring up Elizabeth Moore for the Dolphins here. And nice break for the Dolphins, Joe, here to start the 7th.
Well, Mike, you know the question on my mind. I think it's the same question on your mind. Are the Dolphins going to bunt here to move Corrick to third?
Well, Moore's had a good game here this afternoon, 2 hits and 3 at-bats, but runner on second's a little different than a runner on first.
Sure is.
Especially in the bottom half of the 7th inning. So let's see what head coach Eric Kraut decides to do here with the go-ahead run at second. And, Joe, you mentioned before, this is a big game for the Dolphins here this afternoon, a big home game against a team that's undefeated in conference play. And a game the Dolphins would love to get a base hit here for, Joe.
Absolutely. I think Moore's swinging the bat here.
Let's see, the first pitch to Moore is throwing it, bounce right back to the mound, and the pitcher throws the ball away, and coming around to score will be Corrick, and the game is over, and the Dolphins win by a score of 3-2. I don't know, the plays are still on the field.
They had no idea, Mike.
But the game is over, and the Dolphins win by a score of 3-2. And, Joe, on that last play, that ball bounced right back to the mound. Corrick never even Benson never even looked at third. Corrick never hesitated. She was running to third. The play there was to throw the ball to third. Instead, Benson never even looked, threw it over the head of the first baseman, and on 2 ground ball errors, Mercy College will lose this one to the Dolphins as they will win their 3rd game of the year, their first home game of the year, by a final score of 3-2.
Well, Mike, there's so much to unpack on that play. First of all, Corrick was dead to rights between second and third. If Benson took a look, she did not, so Corrick was allowed to advance. Second, there was plenty of time to throw to first and retire Moore. The ball was airmailed into right field. And third, how did neither team have a single player other than Emily Corrick who knew the game was over, Mike? The entire Mercy Mavericks team was standing in the field. Moore was standing over at first base. Corrick and the Dolphins bench were the only players celebrating. I was baffled by how that game ended.
Yeah, and, the other thing, Joe, on that play was, you mentioned it a little bit, but Benson never even looked at third base. And if you're not even going to look at third base, then why are you rushing the ball over to first base? They had barely gotten out of the batter's box, but a couple of big errors at the end of the game in the 7th inning by Mercy College, and the Dolphins come away with a big 3-2 win, Joe. And you know what? You never look back, and you always take it.
Dolphins will absolutely take it, but if you're a fan of the Mavericks, you have to be disappointed with the way that game ended. Runners on second and third, nobody out. They tie the game in the 6th, but could not take the lead. It appeared a foregone conclusion that Mercy would get in front in that 6th inning. They failed to do so, and then a costly error, 2 of them in that last inning. The first error allowing Corrick to reach and then move to second, and then the second error ending the game. So if you're a fan of Mercy College or a member of that team, you have to be a bit disappointed with how that game ended. And don't forget, Mike, the Dolphins' games in the East Coast Conference factor into the season standings in the conference. So if the Mavericks are on the outside looking in at the end of the year, this is certainly a game they'll remember as they dropped the first game of 2 to the College of Staten Island in the 7th, 3-2.
So Emily Corrick will get the win for the Dolphins. She will even up her record at 2-2. Alexi Benson will take the loss, her first loss of the year. Her record drops to 3-1, and a nice win here for the CSI Dolphins as they go on to win here this afternoon. So that's going to wrap things up for game number 1. What we're going to do is we're going to step aside, take a break. We'll be off the air for a few minutes, and then we'll be back to bring you game number 2 of today's doubleheader between the College of Staten Island and Mercy College as you are watching women's college softball right here on your voice of everything CSI Sports, CSI Sportsnet, CSIDolphins.com on the ECC Sports Network.
And we welcome you back inside the CSI Softball Complex. This is CSI Sportsnet, exclusive coverage of NCAA Division II softball on the ECC network. And we will jump right into the action. Game 2 between the College of Staten Island Dolphins and the Mercy College Mavericks. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joe Foreman, once again joined by Mike Babuski, bringing you all of the action live from behind home plate. In the circle for the Dolphins is Nicole Rivera, making her first start of the season here at the College of Staten Island. Last time we covered Dolphins softball, it was Jacqueline Cateridge taking the circle in Game 2 of a doubleheader against Uville. Today it is Rivera getting the start. Cateridge will be the designated hitter, and Emily Corrick will move from the circle. Game 1 starting pitcher Corrick moves over to first base, as that one is skied out toward right field, and making the catch is Victoria Whalen for the first out of the game. And, Mike, very quickly, you have the starting lineup for the Mercy College Mavericks.
Yes, Joe, we do. Casey Akers just popped out to right for the first out, the remainder of the lineup. Hannah Mueller will be the DH in game number 2, bat second. Danielle Burgos at shortstop, batting third. Yana Bowman will be at third base. She'll bat fourth. Sydney Johnson catching and batting fifth. Alyssa Guzman in left field, batting sixth. Alexandra Caraveras at first base, batting seventh. Nicole Smart getting her first action today, this afternoon at second base, batting eighth. And Ariana Ricci in right field again, Joe, batting ninth.
Thank you, Mike. As stepping into the box is Hannah Mueller. And the first pitch to Mueller sails up and in for ball 1.
Mueller got on base twice in game number 1, Joe. She walked and singled and scored the first run of the game for the Mavericks in that comeback 6th inning.
And it certainly appeared as if the Mavericks would ultimately take the lead in that 6th inning, but a great job by the Dolphins in game 1, inning 6, to keep that game tied, and they would ultimately walk it off in the 7th. Count 2 balls and 1 strike on Hannah Mueller. And Rivera's 2-1 pitch skips in to Gallo behind the plate. Nice block there, but it's ball 3.
Yeah, that was a great job by Corrick in that 6th inning. Really hanging tough, Joe, after a couple of things went against her in that inning. And
That one's hit sharply on the ground to short, bobbled for a moment by Moore, and she lost the play. That will be an E6, and once again, it's a first inning error for Elizabeth Moore.
Yeah, so Moore commits the error, Joe, and Dolphins had a couple of errors in that first one. Here's their first error here in game number 2, so let's see if Rivera able to bounce back from that early Dolphin mistake.
Danielle Burgos will be the batter. Burgos 1 of 3 with a run batted in game number 1 of this doubleheader. That RBI came on a double ripped into the left field corner. She's ahead in the count here, 1-0. And the 1-0 pitch misses down and in for ball 2.
Rivera just one appearance on the year, Joe, 2/3 of an inning, and a strikeout in her only appearance.
Coach Eric Kraut must have liked what he saw, as that's hit sharply on the ground and past a diving Moore at shortstop and into left center for a base hit. That moves Mueller up into scoring position, and the Mavericks now have 2 on with 1 out.
Yeah, so now the Mavericks able to take advantage of that Dolphin error and following it up with that hard-hit single, threatening here in the top of the first with 2 runners on and just 1 out.
That will bring Ilana Bowman to the plate. Bowman in game 1 was 0 for 1 at the plate. She struck out in her lone plate appearance, and she takes a called strike 1 right here. We saw a lot of shuffling of players in and out of the lineup in game 1, Mike, and Bowman was one of many who exited and then re-entered the game back and forth for this Mavericks team throughout the 7 innings. Count even at 1 ball and 1 strike. And the pitch from Rivera is bunted foul. So quite a bit of bunting in game 1.
Yeah, and, you know, that time Bowman trying to lay one down for the base hit, but bunting and ball foul, and now finds herself down in the count at 1-2.
Big pitch here upcoming from Rivera, looking for the second out of the inning. And that one's fouled away by Bowman, who stays alive.
Yeah, you know, that was really an exciting first game, Joe. The Dolphins, you know, making the most out of their opportunities. And, you know, really when it came down to the 7th inning, a couple of defensive plays that Mercy didn't make really opened the door and, you know, gave the Dolphins the opportunity to come away with that big 3-2 win. And, you know, Joe, with a win here this afternoon, could get back to 500.
They'll be looking to do just that as they knock off the unbeaten in the ECC Mavericks, and retired on the fielder's choice going from first to second is Danielle Burgos. Advancing to third is Hannah Mueller, and the batter Bowman reaches first base safely. There are now 2 away, and Sydney Johnston will be the batter.
Yeah, and that was a close play at second base. A good defensive play that time by Moore, able to at least get that lead runner and keep the force out at second in order now with 2 outs. It's Sydney Johnson, the batter, and she was very effective in game number 1, Joe, for the Mavericks.
She was, as the first pitch to Johnston is taken, and the Dolphins will allow the runner to take second base. And we saw that play executed by the Dolphins in game 1. They threw towards second. It was cut off by Moore, and then Moore caught the runner over at third in a rundown. Ultimately was tagged out by Samantha McPherson. Count 1-0 on Johnston. And that's in for a called strike 1. And that's ripped into shallow center, and forced to play it on a hop is Porcaro. That's down for an RBI single off the bat of Sydney Johnston. She follows her 1 for 2 game 1. Also had an RBI in that game, with another RBI base hit here in the first inning of game 2 to give the Mavericks a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, she lashed that ball right back up the middle that time on Rivera, and that gives the Mavericks that 1-0 lead, Joe, and that'll bring up Alyssa Guzman. And a big point of the game here, Joe, early in the first inning.
Well, every run from this point forward will be unearned as a result of the error by Moore, and that will cost the Dolphins at least one run, maybe two, as that one's into the right center field gap, rolls all the way to the wall. Throw hits the cutoff and then trickles away. Sliding into third base safely is Guzman. 2 runs come in to score on the RBI double, and the Mavericks have an early 3-0 lead.
Yeah, so the Mavericks hitting the ball hard on Rivera here in the top half of the first inning. 3 hits already, and they now lead by a score of 3-0.
That one driven into the gap in right center field. 2 runs were short to come home on that ball, but the runner given third as the ball trickled away from the Dolphins for just a moment. No error officially charged as of yet. I'm not sure if the ball getting away impacted whether or not the runner could take third. So that would make it a triple if there's no error. So credit the batter, Guzman, with a 2 RBI triple. And the Dolphins' deficit is now 3 runs.
Yeah, that's a triple, Joe. I mean, the Alyssa was rounded second and heading to third before the ball even headed toward the infield. So Dolphins find themselves behind early, and Mercy with more runs here in the first inning than they picked up in all of game number 1, Joe.
And they certainly have to be happy with that. Don't forget, Mike, that unearned run that came home in the first inning of last game, ultimately the difference, though. The Dolphins did have a chance for more in that 7th inning. As the game came to an end with the 3rd run scored by CSI, they certainly could have added more with the middle of the order due up, but perhaps wanted to, as really no one on the field had realized that game came to an end, as the 2-0 pitch is popped up. And that is caught by Corrick for the final out of the inning. But now for the Mavericks, put the first 3 runs of Game 2 of today's ECC doubleheader up on the scoreboard. They lead the College of Staten Island 3-0. Dolphins get their first turn at bat after this break.
Wayne State Medical School has been my dream medical school since I was 5. Athletics are important, but so is service. So is research, so is becoming a better person, and we expect you to do well athletically, but don't forget the reason you're here, which is to give back to your community and to get good grades. It was my sophomore indoor season. It was the first year with our new head coach, and he comes in and he's like, we could be a national contending team if you guys work hard. And I heard him and I was like, well, I want to be a national champion. I want to be an All-American. And I bought in because he bought into our team. And I qualified to go to indoor nationals. I decided I wanted it, so I went and grabbed it.
And we are back here from the CSI softball complex. Dolphins trailing 3-0, entering the bottom half of the first inning. And in the circle for the Mercy College Mavericks is Sabrina Gonzalez. And I'll try and get the numbers for Gonzalez on the season. I have those right here. She comes in with a record of 0-1, a 9.8 ERA. Her one appearance this season has been a start. In 5 innings pitched, she's allowed 7 hits, 8 runs, 7 of those earned. She has walked 3 and struck out 2. Opponents hitting at .333 against her.
So both Catherine Zucker and Jessica Becchetti, a couple of other pitching options here for Mercy College, but they choose to go with Gonzalez here this afternoon in game number 2.
Emily Corrick will be the batter for the Dolphins. She looks the first pitch she sees up and in for ball 1. Corrick very busy at the top of the Dolphins batting order. In the first game of today's doubleheader, she went 2 for 4 with a pair of runs scored. Corrick will bunt one to the circle, and the throw to first not nearly in time, as once again, Emily Corrick is on with a bunt single.
Yeah, she's been on base all afternoon, Joe, and she also reached base for the CSI Dolphins in that final 7th inning as well on an error. So she'll get on base, and, you know, Dolphins looking to bounce back after falling behind early by a score 3-0.
They will turn to Elizabeth Moore here with Corrick standing over at first base. Nobody out in the bottom half of the first. In the early game, Moore also 2 of 4. She scored a run.
Yeah, she really hit the ball hard in that first game, Joe.
She certainly did and has done so all season long. In the first game we covered here on Sportsnet, Moore came through with a 2 RBI base hit. against D'Youville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just 5 innings on the year for Gonzalez, Joe. She's allowed 7 hits, 8 runs, 7 earned, and walked 3. So 10 batters have reached base in just 5 innings.
Both pitchers in this game have only had 1 appearance this season for their respective teams. You mentioned Rivera's numbers for the Dolphins and just now Gonzalez's numbers for the Mavericks. As Moore will get ahead in the count 2-0, but very limited innings for both Gonzalez and Rivera coming into this one. Making for an interesting matchup as that's hit out to straightaway left. And settling underneath it is Guzman to make the catch for the first out of the inning.
Yeah, that time Moore got a lot of that one, drove it deep to left, but really no problem out in left field for Guzman on the play.
And that will bring up Samantha McPherson. McPherson with a rare offer in the early game. She did drive in a run. McPherson will get her first look at Gonzalez, and I have McPherson's spray chart for the season in front of me, and she has really driven the ball. A lot of those base hits to the outfield, and you see a whole lot of green on the left side of the screen. McPherson likes to pull the ball. She's ahead in the count here, 1-0. Interesting, the Dolphins did not send Coric from first base during that previous at-bat for Moore. Dolphins really looking to get the base running game involved during game 1, but failed to convert on a single stolen base in that game. I think it was an 0 for 3 for the Dolphins. And McPherson bats here with the count even at 1-1 strike and takes downstairs for ball 2. Looks like Johnston may have been giving some more direction to her infielders once again. As she receives instruction from the Mavericks dugout. Count 2-1 strike on McPherson. And that's it sharply right back to the circle, and that throw sails into straightaway center field. And the Mavericks did not see McPherson taking second base or were completely negligent on the play, as they had McPherson out at second, instead decided to throw to third where they had no play. And good heads-up base running there by Samantha McPherson to take the extra base, charge the error to Gonzalez, and the Dolphins have 2 in scoring position.
Yeah, you know, that was a one-hopper right back to Gonzalez at the mound, Joe, and she turned, and she just launched that one into center field. It wasn't even close. And then, you know, a throw in from center field that time into third base, and coming up with the ball was Bowman, and she got it to second, but not in time to get McPherson. And, you know, just like that, Joe, the Dolphins have 2 runners in scoring position, just 1 out, and Isabel Gallo at the plate. And, you know, Gallo also hit the ball pretty well in game number 1.
Well, Mike, that took me completely by surprise when that ball sailed into center field. Another play where the Mavericks had plenty of time to make a throw and failed to do so. That brings Isabel Gallo to the plate, and she hit the ball hard in each of her last 2 at-bats during game 1. Finished 2 for 3. Count 1-0 on Gallo here. A chance to bring home 2, and she hits one well out to left center field. That chases Guzman back toward the warning track. She makes the catch. Coming home to score the first Dolphins run is Emily Coric. Going second to third is Samantha McPherson. Credit a sacrifice fly to Isabel Gallo, and the Dolphins now trail 3-1.
Yeah, Gallo lashed that ball deep into left center field, and Guzman had to go all the way back. No chance, of course, to get Coric at the plate. So she brings in the first run for the Dolphins, and Dolphins now down 3-1, and, you know, looking for more with center fielder Gloria Porcaro, the batter.
Porcaro 0 for 2 with a walk in the early game. We'll look to chase home McPherson from third with 2 outs in the first. And she takes a called strike 1.
Nice pitch that time by Gonzalez. The outside of the plate. Porcaro took it for a strike, 0-1.
Porcaro came in among the Dolphins' leading hitters entering the day. Has been hitting in that 3, 4, or 5 spot in the batting order in most games, with the exception of game 1. And Nearly a tough luck out for Porcaro as that ball deflected off of Gonzalez to the shortstop, but the throw skips over to first base, and unable to make the scoop was Alexandra Caravallas. Second Dolphin run comes home. We'll see if there's an error charge there. I would think there has to be on the throw, so that run will be unearned, and the Dolphins now trail by 1.
Yeah, that was a hard hit ball up the middle, and it went off Gonzalez's leg to the shortstop, and it looked like Burgos would have time to get the out, but she skips it to first, and the Dolphins get to within a run.
Another one back to the circle is bobbled, but this time Gonzalez makes the underhand toss to first, and that retires the side. But not before the Dolphins get 2 runs back in their half of the first. Our score entering the second, College of Staten Island 2, Mercy College 3. We'll be right back with more ECC softball.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly, we're here to discover ourselves, our vision, our heart, our drive, to achieve every goal we aim for, because we want to be champions at the highest level, life. At Division II, the opportunities are here. Are you ready?
And we are back from the College of Staten Island. Mercy College leading Staten Island by a score of 3-2. It will be Alexandra Caravallas leading things off for the Mavericks in their half of the second after a 3-spot for Mercy in the first. And that one's driven out to straightaway center and over the head of Claudia Porcaro. She fields it at the wall and hits more, cutting off her throw. It's a leadoff double for Caravallas, and Mercy's in business to open up the second inning.
Yeah, Caravallas lashed that one deep into left center field, and Porcaro really couldn't make a play on it. It went to the wall, and a good start here for Mercy College. And, Mercy getting off with 3 in their half of the first show. Nice by the job by the Dolphins to come back with 2 of their own, but the Mavericks get it going again here in the second.
And it looks like we are going to have a change for the Dolphins upcoming.
I think that
they batted out of order.
I don't know, Joe. We had the lineup with Caravallas and Smart. Now, that doesn't make it the official lineup, of course, but that was the lineup we were going from, and I have to assume we got it off of a lineup card. So that being the case, it is possible that they could have batted out of order. Let's see.
Yeah, they hit out of order, Mike. Mike, I'm going to turn off my headset for a second and head down to the other end of the table if you'll just take the viewers through this break, because I think that we were right about the lineup change during the break in the action.
All right. So, what's happening now, and we can almost be quiet and let you hear it, is that the umpire is discussing with Dave Pizzuto, the statistician, the lineup on the play. And, as Joe Foreman had mentioned, we had the lineup with Caravallas batting 7th and Smart batting 8th. And, we even had that written in our card, but Smart batted to lead off get the last out in the first inning, and then Caravallas came out. And, I'm not even sure the remedy of this, but the officials, the umpires are discussing that now, and like I said, I'm not even sure what the remedy of that is. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they batted out of order. Well, what does that mean? So we will have to see.
Well, Mike,
and again, I like to think of myself as someone who knows the rules, but I honestly don't know what would happen, and I guess we're about to find out, Joe.
Well, Mike, I can say with certainty that based off of the official lineup we were given, the Mavericks did bat out of order. I was very confused during the break. You and I were looking at our lineup sheets. We both had the 7th place hitter as Alexandra Karavias. Karavias just led off the 2nd inning. The last out of the previous inning was made by Nicole Smart for the Mavericks, and when Smart was retired, I immediately noticed a mistake that I thought I had made on my lineup. It turns out the mistake was made by Mercy College, batting out of order. So the batter who hit out of order is ruled out. Karavias is out, and a shrewd move there by Eric Kraut, waiting until after Karavias got on base to bring that to the attention of the umpire. He deserves some credit for that, and the first out of the inning is recorded on the batting out of order.
All right, so Karavias is out, but I guess that she'll remain batting 8th, Joe. I guess.
I don't think so, unless she wants to be retired batting out of order again.
So then they switch her back to 7th, so she goes back original lineup. Yeah. So Dave
right.
Pizzuto confirming that info, and here we go, Joe.
Well, we are vindicated, Mike, as both you and I had the correct lineup. I thought I'd made an error during the break, and I made the change, and now I'll have to change it back, as it will be Ariana Ricci, the number 9 place hitter and right fielder for the Mavericks, batting with 1 out and nobody on, and she's quickly ahead in the count, 3-0. Well, you don't see that every day, Mike, because I'm not sure I've ever seen that covering any CSI baseball or softball.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, Joe. You're right. You certainly don't see it often.
That one's ripped towards second. Komuhendo with a nice play on a hop, and she throws out Ricci for the 2nd out of the inning. A nice play by Garrett Komuhendo.
Yeah, and Joe, here in the top half of the 2nd inning, first you had Karavias lashing a ball deep into left center field, and that time a great play by Caramundo to get Ricci out for the 2nd out. So nice defensive play, 2 out, no one on for the Mavericks.
Back to the top of the order for Mercy College. Casey Akers will be the batter. She flew out to open this game, and then the Mavericks got going at the plate and put 3 runs up on the scoreboard in the first. And that's hit well out to straightaway left, but right there to make the catch is Carry On for the 3rd out of the inning. So Nicole Rivera faces the minimum. The Mavericks batting out of order has them set down 1-2-3 in the 2nd. Dolphins comes to bat trailing by 1 when we return.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends, live sports and watch parties, to Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back here from the College of Staten Island. Dolphins trailing the Mavericks by a score of 3-2. And in the top half of the 2nd, a very interesting scenario played out. We saw the Mavericks batting out of order, and head coach of the Dolphins, Eric Kraut, bringing that to the attention of the home plate umpire. You and I caught it, Mike, but due to not providing the home field advantage, we do not alert the umpire to that. And that was just something that we were told by the umpire. We questioned whether or not we should ever alert the umpire in that situation, and he said that for the sake of not giving the Dolphins a home field advantage, we cannot do that, as Victoria Whalen lines one into the glove of the shortstop Burgos, who makes a tremendous diving catch.
Yeah, Whalen that time hitting that one up the middle, but a nice play that time by the Mavericks for the first out. And I just want to mention, Joe, a defensive substitution for the Mavericks here in the bottom half of the second inning. Haley Puglia back in the game, replacing Bowman.
Thank you, Mike. As I completely forgot about that as we were past that information just before we came back from break. It will be Jessica Carrion, the batter for the Dolphins, and she pulls one over to short and is thrown out. So Carrion is retired on one pitch for the second out of the inning.
Yeah, so 2 up, 2 down quickly here for the Dolphins in the bottom half of the second, as a nice job being done here in the second by Gonzalez to retire the first 2 Dolphins.
Both pitchers had a rough go of it in the first inning. A quick second for Rivera in the circle, helped along by that batting out of order. And now the Dolphins with 2 quick outs in the bottom half of inning number 2. And Sabrina Gonzalez will look to make it a 1-2-3 inning as she faces Garrett Comuhendo. Comuhendo ahead in the count, 1-0. She was 0 for 2 with a walk in game 1. We'll look to beat this one out here. And we'll see how that's scored.
That's got to be an infield hit on that one, Joe. And, you know, as soon as that one bounced over the head of Gonzalez, you knew that with Corimundo's speed that she was going to be tough to get. And Mercy not able to play the ball. So Dolphins get their second hit of the game. And now with 2 outs have a threat, as Corrick will be the batter.
Well, Gonzalez certainly didn't have a play on that ball, Mike, but the pitchers in the circle for the Mavericks would be wise to play those choppers aggressively against a very speedy Dolphins team. As another hitter that's fleet of foot, and Emily Corrick comes up to bat. Corrick 1 for 1 with a bunt single. She was the winning pitcher in game 1, went the distance for the Dolphins, 7 innings in the circle. Also scored the game-winning run. 1 of 2 runs she scored in that game. She's behind in the count, 0-1 here, and takes a look at that pitch downstairs for ball 1. An extra base hit could score Comuhendo from first base.
You know, she'll be off and running, Joe, so she should have a good chance.
Here comes the 1-1 pitch, and that's hit toward the middle and through for a base hit. Comuhendo will go first to third, as once again the Mavericks throw to third, unwisely allowing Corrick to take second base. And Mike, that's the second time the Mavericks have made that mistake.
Yeah, you know, that's really not good fundamental softball that time on the part of the Mavericks, because, you know, there was really little chance of getting Corimundo at third base. And actually, Mercy very fortunate that the Dolphins didn't tie the game up on that play. You know, just the fence is fairly close to the field and the ball didn't go far. But now the Dolphins with 2 runners on, with 2 out, and, you know, this was an inning. Gonzalez got the first 2 batters very quickly, Joe, and Dolphins now threatening with 2 outs.
Very sloppy play by the Mavericks in the field early in this game. Already a couple of errors up on the scoreboard, and that's twice they've thrown to third base for no reason at all. There was no play on Comuhendo over at third, and they allow Corrick to take the extra base, where now just a single could give the Dolphins the lead. And Elizabeth Moore is the batter. She's 0 for 1, flew out in the first. Behind in the count, 0-1 here. Here comes the 0-1 pitch to Moore. And she was just out in front of that one as she pulls it foul, and she hit that ball pretty well.
Yeah, the Dolphins have been hitting the ball well in game number 2 so far against Gonzalez. And looking for a big hit here now as they fell behind 3-0 and a base hit away, Joe, for maybe flipping that around.
Dolphins trailed by 1 through the first. Could take a 1-run lead with a base hit here. Moore in a 2-strike hole, and she looks it outside for ball 1. Should Moore get on and prolong this inning, Samantha McPherson stands in the on-deck circle. And if you're the Mavericks, you would like to see the inning end right here. without giving McPherson a chance to bat. Here's the 1-2 pitch, and that sails up and away.
Yeah, so Moore working her way back in the count. She flew out to deep left field, Joe, in the first. Hit the ball well. Looks like the Dolphins are seeing the ball pretty well against Gonzalez here this afternoon.
It's the second turn through the order for the College of Staten Island as Moore takes a called strike 3 on the outside corner. A huge strikeout for Sabrina Gonzalez brings the bottom half of the second inning to a close. Our score heading into inning number 3, Mercy College 3, Staten Island 2. More ECC softball after this break.
My dad was a soccer coach and bought this little book bag. I could sit in the book bag like facing backwards and with like my legs out. So I'd be in his book bag when my dad coaches and the ball's going around. I'm like kicking at the ball in the back. And my dad was like, we have a prodigy. So he put me into soccer and it just progressed from there. The catalyst was the opportunity to play soccer at a Division II school. On my team, I thrive to work as hard as I can. I mean, whatever you do on the field, there's a positive correlation to whatever else you do, be it personal relationships, homework, the way you carry yourself. I've changed since I got to King University. It's really helped me to develop as a leader. I think it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened.
And we're back from the CSI softball complex. Dolphins trailing 3-2, entering the third. It will be 2, 3, and 4 for the Mavericks in their half of inning number 3.
Yeah, 2 very entertaining innings here, Joe, to start game number 2. Dolphins finding themselves down by a run.
We've covered a couple of doubleheaders on Sportsnet this year as that's lofted into left field, and Carrion makes the catch for quick out number 1, but we've covered a pair of doubleheaders this year on Sportsnet already, 1 softball and 1 baseball. This is the second softball doubleheader here on Sportsnet, and this has easily been the most competitive action we've seen start to finish in any of the 2 doubleheaders that we've covered, or I should say 3 now, on Sportsnet this year. So stay tuned. As that one's hit well out to right field, and that's right at Victoria Whalen. 2 pitches and 2 outs for Rivera in the circle to open up the third. Quickly 2 away in the Mavericks half of the third inning. And Yolanda Bowman will be the batter. And that's hit up in the air. And Moore, I believe, will call off Comohendo, who is making a run for that ball. And it is a 3-pitch inning for Nicole Rivera. 2 deep fly balls and a pop-up just beyond the infield dirt. Dolphins will trail by a run when they come to bat in the bottom half of the third.
Wayne State Medical School has been my dream medical school since I was 5. Athletics are important, but so is service, so is research, so is becoming a better person. And we expect you to do well athletically, but don't forget the reason you're here, which is to give back to your community and to get good grades. It was my sophomore indoor season. It was the first year with our new head coach. And he comes in and he's like, we could be a national contending team if you guys work hard. And I heard him and I was like, well, I want to be a national champion. I want to be an All-American. And I bought in because he bought into our team. And I qualified to go to indoor nationals. I decided I wanted it, so I went and grabbed it.
And we're back from the College of Staten Island. Dolphins coming off of tying a new program record, Mike, for the quickest inning. 3 pitches out there in the circle, but all joking aside, for the Mavericks in their half of the third, they went down 1-2-3 on 3 pitches from Nicole Rivera. And for the Dolphins in the bottom half of inning number 3, it will be 3, 4, and 5. McPherson, Gallo, and Porcaro due up for the College of Staten Island.
And, Joe, we have another defensive change here for the Mavericks, as it will be Alyssa Crawford going into play center field here in the bottom half of the third inning.
So Crawford will take over in center. Akers coming out as McPherson drives the ball again, making the catch on the run with her outstretched glove is the second baseman, and it looks like we might have another change there that I missed, Mike, because we have a number 26 in at second.
Yes.
And, oh, I had her at third base, so that's my mistake.
Yeah, I think I made that same mistake. I did, Joe. I had her at third base as well. So that was a nice defensive play, though, that time by Puglia. It looked like she got a little bit of a late jump on the ball, but able to make the play. Both teams with some good defensive plays here, Joe, in game number 2.
And was that another one-pitch out, Mike?
It was, I believe.
All right, so 4 straight one-pitch outs, a streak that comes to an end right here as Isabel Gallo looks at a called strike 1.
So Bowman remains at third, Joe.
That's correct.
And Puglia is at second base for placing Nicole Smart.
Yes. I was certain we were told third base, just saying, Mike. I don't know if we can take responsibility for that one unless you got the wrong information.
It's possible.
Certainly is, as Dave and I had this discussion earlier in the week, as that one's fouled back. And we both said, he agreed with me that we made a mistake during the broadcast, and it was not the first time we were wrong on the air. The difference is I often don't get caught on microphone or camera admitting it. 0-2 the count on Gallo. Bases empty for the Dolphins in the bottom half of the third. 1 away.
Gallo hit the ball deep to left field in her first at-bat for a sacrifice fly and an RBI. So this is her first official at-bat, but Dolphins have hit the ball pretty well this afternoon, Joe, against Maverick pitching.
They have gotten plenty of good swings in today's doubleheader thus far. And I just learned a new capability of my digital stats. I can access the spray chart anytime. So you can see that Gallo clearly a pull hitter based on this spray chart. Most of her base hits going to left field. Here comes the 1-2 pitch. And that's just off the outside corner for ball 2. And in case you were wondering, Mike, that's every game I've scored this season, which includes the 2 games on the road against Queens and today's doubleheader against the Mavericks. Well, they're passing the change with Crawford coming into center field over to us, the commentary desk, but Mike was right on top of it.
We had that one, Dave.
As that misses for ball 3. Always nice to have a laugh here at the commentary desk as we get the chance to sit alongside the stats desk here at softball. We extended our setup a bit so that all of us could sit side by side today. Dave and I were in the bleachers a couple of weeks ago, Mike, as that's grounded over to short, fielded by Burgos, and she throws out Gallo for the second out.
Yeah, so Gallo, once again, hit that one hard to shortstop, and Burgos there to make the play for the second out. So 2 up, 2 down here for the Dolphins in the bottom of the third.
And that will bring up Claudia Porcaro. Porcaro 0 for 2 in the early game with a walk. She's 0 for 1 in this game, officially reached on an error in her first at-bat, and that's ripped foul.
Joe, we should mention that the doubleheader the Dolphins had on the schedule tomorrow has been canceled. So no softball tomorrow for the Dolphins, as they'll be back in action later in the week.
I think it's Thursday, Mike, against Malloy.
Yeah, Thursday's their next home game. They'll play Bridgeport.
That's well foul.
As that's driven foul, but they'll go on the road and play Bridgeport on Tuesday at 2:30, I'm sorry. And then they'll be back here at the CSI softball complex Thursday at 4 o'clock against Malloy College.
So a couple of weekday doubleheaders for the Dolphins next week. Porcaro behind in the count, 0-2. Bases empty, bottom half of the third inning. And Porcaro looks it outside for ball 1. Porcaro looking for her first base hit of the day. Certainly capable of tying this game with one big swing. She does have a home run on the season already. Here comes the 1-2 pitch. That's up and away for ball 2. Jacqueline Cateridge would be next. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Here comes the pitch from Gonzalez. That's popped up on the infield. Should be an easy play for Bowman, and she makes the catch to retire the side. Dolphins go down 1-2-3 in their half of the third. Our score heading into the fourth, 3-2 in favor of Mercy College.
Football for me just kind of was the glue that kept my family together. I feel like, I don't know what it was that drew me in, but after I started playing for a while and started seeing some early success as a little kid, to see how much it meant to my parents to see me play the game and try to make a difference was really what fueled me to keep playing and stay competitive. Being a triple major is not necessarily easy, but at the same time it is what you make it. Being a tighter-knit university, I have a lot of classes with the same professors, so they know me pretty well. I think it's that personal relationship that really helped me to thrive as a student. I was able to come here and get my triple major, as well as play a super high level of baseball against some of the best players in the country. There's a lot of options here in Division II with a lot of great ball players and a lot of great people, and they make sure that they give you every opportunity to succeed on and off the field.
And we are back here at the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins trailing 3-2. That has been our score since the conclusion of the first inning. For the Dolphins, it's a pair of runs on 3 base hits and 1 error. For the Mavericks, 3 runs on 3 base hits and 2 errors. It will be 5, 6, and 7 due up for Mercy College in their half of the fourth, beginning with the catcher, Sydney Johnston. And Johnston takes up high for ball 1. She's 1 for 1 in the game with a single.
Yeah, Johnson and Guzman did a lot of the damage for the Mavericks in that first inning, Joe.
Came through with 2 outs for the Mavericks as Johnston takes down low for ball 2. Dolphins have to be happy with first-time starter Nicole Rivera through the first 3 innings. A bit of a rough first, but has been solid since. But here she's behind in the count against Johnston, 3-0. Rivera officially a sophomore, but a first-year Dolphin. As that one skips in for ball 4. So it's a 4-pitch walk to open up the 4th inning, and that will bring up Alyssa Guzman.
Yeah, Rivera very careful that time to Johnson, and Johnson able to work a leadoff walk. So let's see if Rivera can settle down here in the top half of the 4th.
1 on, nobody out, and that begs the question, will we see a bunt attempt?
Guzman did have that 2 RBI triple in her first at-bat against Rivera, and she didn't show bunt.
See if I have the numbers for Guzman sacrificing this year. I'm not sure if that's kept here, and I don't believe so, Mike. You might have that.
Let me take a look.
1-0 the count on Guzman, and she's swinging, so I doubt we'll see a bunt in this at-bat. Is during game 1, just about every situation with nobody out and a runner on first, we saw a bunt attempt.
Well, the Mavericks had 7 sacrifices coming into the doubleheader here this afternoon, and Guzman had 1 of them.
All right, so she has been asked to bunt at least once this season. Doesn't appear as if she will be asked to do so right here. The count even at 1 ball and 1 strike. There's a half swing, and she went around. The count runs to 1-2.
Yeah, that time Alyssa got a little bit caught in between. Now down in the count, 1-2.
Runner at first is Johnston. Here comes the 1-2 pitch to Guzman, and that's off the outside corner.
Yeah, that was a nice pitch that time by Rivera, and you could hear some of the players in the Dolphin dugout wanted that one, but a little low. Even the count's at 2.
They have one very vocal assistant in there. I'm not sure who that is, if we have it on our roster, as Moore will step on second for 1 and throw on over to first for the double play. Nicely done by Elizabeth Moore on a sharply hit ground ball by Guzman, and there are 2 away.
Yeah, that's a pitcher's best friend that time. Is ball hit hard on the ground, and, you know, Moore right by the second base bag, able to step on the bag and get it over to first, and make it look pretty easy that time, Joe, for 2 quick outs.
6-6-3 double play. As that one's taken for a called strike 1 by Alexandra Caravallas.
Caravallas ripped a double in her last at-bat, leading off the second, but she should have been batting 7th, so she was ruled out. And I guess that makes her 0 for 1. I'm not really sure. It does make her 0 for 1.
Yep.
Here in game number 2.
Both her and Nicole Smart 0 for 1 to open the game. I believe Smart was substituted out. Can't see who's in the on-deck circle from where I'm seated as the 0-2 pitch is taken outside for ball 1.
Should be Puglia, I believe, Joe.
That's one disadvantage of going digital. When you make a change in the field, it does not reflect in the lineup. You have to make the change again when that player comes to bat. As that's hit well out to straightaway center field, but right at Porcaro for the 3rd out of the inning. So helped along by a double play. Rivera faces the minimum in the circle in the top half of the 4th. Dolphins come to bat, trailing by a run when we return.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly, we're here to discover ourselves, our vision, our heart, our drive, to achieve every goal we aim for, because we want to be champions at the highest level, life. At Division II, the opportunities are here. Are you ready?
And welcome back to the College of Staten Island. Dolphins getting set to come to the plate in their half of the 4th, still trailing by a run. It will be 6, 7, and 8 due up for CSI in this half inning, as that is ripped foul by Jacqueline Cateridge.
Yeah, and that was the best swing that Cateridge has had all afternoon, Joe. She ripped that one, but about a foot or so foul down the left field line, so she's now down in the count 0-1. She's 0 for 1 this afternoon, Joe, grounded back to the mound in the 1st.
That was some shot by Cateridge on that last foul ball, as good of a swing as she's had all day. She's 0 for 1 in this game, flew out in her first at-bat, and hits the ball hard once again, this time through the right side, throw to first, not in time, as Cateridge was running hard all the way, and she's on with a leadoff single.
Yeah, so Cateridge had 2 good swings off of Gonzalez. That one grounding the ball in between the hole, in between first and second. So Dolphins get the tying run on here in the bottom half of the 4th inning, and Victoria Whalen will be the batter for the Dolphins. And Victoria lined out hard to shortstop her. Really good defensive play by Danielle Burgos in her first at-bat.
So Whalen will come to the plate here with a runner on first. Nobody out. Dolphins still trailing by a run. That has been the case since the 1st. And Whalen looks at a called strike 1. Whalen was 0 for 2 with a walk in the early game today. Dolphins won that game by a final score of 3-2 in walk-off fashion. 3-2 is the same score they trail by right here. As Whalen squares up to bunt and bunts it foul. And Whalen now in a 2-strike hole. And Mike, bunting.
She was out of the umpire ruled, Joe, that she stepped out of the box before she bunted the ball, and she's going to be called out. So, seen a lot of interesting things here this afternoon, Joe, out on the softball field. But Whalen will be out for stepping out of the box for the first out, and a lot of challenges for the official scorer here this afternoon.
You're right about that, Mike. And Challenges for me over here as well, as I've never had to input any of these into my stat-keeping software. I can only imagine Dave, but he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. Has probably seen it all at this point. As Jessica Carrion is the batter, looks at ball one, and we've spoken about it all day, giving away outs, whether it be on the base paths or at the plate. And right there, the Dolphins giving away an out after getting the leadoff runner on. And Carrion pops up to Johnston after she sees 2 pitches for out number 2.
Yeah, again, a nice turnaround of the inning for Sabrina Gonzalez. Caterage led off with that single, and then, Wayland out of the batter's box when she attempted to bunt, called out, and, then a quick foul out. And just like that, 2 outs and a runner on first base for Comundo.
Comundo looks it up and away for ball 1. She's 1 for 1 in the game, singled on an infield chopper in her first at bat. Also has a great defensive play in the field in this game. Here comes the 1-0 pitch. That's on the outside corner for a called strike.
Wow, that was a close one, Joe. Just kiss the outside corner for a strike.
Yeah, much easier for you to see than it is for me, as I'm seated a few feet to your right.
It was really outside, Joe.
Well, I'll take your word for it. As the 1-1 pitch misses down and away for ball 2. And kind of got the sense that's what you were trying to tell me, Mike, on that last pitch, as Dave and I were dealing with something very similar yesterday. That outside corner was playing tricks on both of us all night. 2 balls and 1 strike, the count on Comundo. And that pitch misses down and in for ball 3. So Comundo on the verge of drawing a 2-out walk. That would move Caterage into scoring position and bring up Emily Corrick.
But first we're going to have a conference out at the mound as Johnson will go out to talk to Gonzalez. Big moment in the game here in the bottom half of the 4th inning. And, a big pitch coming up here, Joe, because certainly don't want to have to face Corrick with 2 on and a runner in scoring, and one of them in scoring position here in the 4th.
Here comes the 3-1 to Comundo. She pops one up in foul territory, and it will land out of play. Count now full on Comundo, which will give Caterage a head start over at first. Here comes the payoff pitch, and that's lined down the right field line in foul territory, out of play. Three balls and 2 strikes, the count on Comundo. Gonzalez looking to bring this inning to a close right here. And that misses down and away for ball 4. So Comundo with another great at bat, works out the walk, and that will give Emily Corrick a chance with 2 on and 2 away.
Yeah, that was a good eye that time by Gorard because that was a very close pitch, but she takes it for ball 4, and now the Dolphins with an opportunity. Tying run at second base, go-ahead run at first base, 2 out for Emily Corrick.
Well, Corrick is 2 for 2 in the game. The Dolphins would love to see her make it a 3 of 3 afternoon. Tying run stands in scoring position over at second. That's Caterage, Comundo on first, and Corrick chops one on the ground over to second, handled by Puglia, who throws out Corrick for the final out of the inning. So the Dolphins strand a pair in their half of the 4th. They still trail by 1 as we head to the 5th inning.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back from the CSI softball complex. Dolphins still trail by a run, Mike, as we have not seen any scoring since the first inning.
Yeah, and Nicole Rivera has really done a great job of settling down. She's faced the minimum number of batters over the last 10, Joe. Retiring the side in 3 batters, and not going beyond the minimum since the first.
An impressive first start for Rivera as a Dolphin, and she returns to the circle for the 5th inning, behind in the count 1-0 here against Puglia. Haley Puglia in the game. I think officially this is her first at-bat, as this was where Caravallas hit out of order earlier in the game and doubled before she was sent back to the dugout for batting out of order, which makes this a very confusing scorecard that I have in front of me. But it's Puglia at the plate, officially her first plate appearance. She's ahead in the count 3-0, and the 3-0 pitch from Rivera misses down and in for ball 4. And that's back-to-back innings where Rivera opened the frame with a 4-pitch walk.
Yeah, it is, and she got out of the last inning with a 6-6-3 double play. Let's see how she could do against Ariana Ricci here in the top of the 5th.
Ricci 0 for 1, grounded out in her lone plate appearance. Had a big hit towards the end of game 1 as Ricci shows bunt and comes up empty for strike 1. Puglia had a nice size start over towards second base in preparation to take off once that ball was bunted. And that misses downstairs for ball 1. Count even at 1 ball and 1 strike, and I think the home plate umpire just signaled either out or strike, maybe timeout is what that signal was. I was very confused, but we have a changeup coming. Could be a pinch runner, as it is eerily silent here at the CSI softball complex. Pinch runner it is. All right, so that last pitch was a strike, as they're going to say Ricci offered at it. We have a pinch runner. That's Angelina Okendo over at first base. And that misses up and away for ball 1. I'm not sure I've ever seen this many substitutions in a game by any team, let alone throughout a doubleheader, as the Mavericks have been sliding players in and out of the lineup all day.
And you don't usually see base running substitutions on an 0-2 pitch either, Joe.
Well, I think the thought process behind that is without being able to get the bunt down, you want the fastest runner possible over at first. And you can have Puglia re-enter, so why not? As that's hit softly to second, Komuhendo unwisely threw to second base there. And she might not have had a play over at first on the runner, Ricci, but I think that was her best chance at an out.
Yeah, well, we've seen twice this afternoon, Joe, where first Gonzalez tried to make a play at second base on a one-hopper back to the mound and get the lead runner, and that time Komuhendo tried to do the same thing. And, in that case, you might want to get the shore out at first base, and, that time the Dolphins didn't, and now they have runners at first and second. And I guess they'll probably call that a fielder's choice, so I'm not even sure there's an error on the play. There won't be.
No.
But yet, again, that's an opportunity for the Dolphins to get an out that they don't come away with.
Well, the dangerous Alexis Crawford will be the batter. Came on for Akers in center field earlier in the game. This is officially her first plate appearance of game 2. She's ahead in the count 1-0 and hits one softly back to the circle. Throw over to first in time to retire Crawford for the first out.
And that time, a good play by Rivera, no hesitation, take the shore out at first base. And now the Mavericks with 2 runners in scoring position with 1 out.
Well, Mike, not to be lost in that play, that's one of the best throws we've seen by a pitcher to a base in the last few innings. As Korach didn't seem to have much trouble throwing to bases, but just about everyone else has seen throws sailing all over the place. That's ripped into center field for a base hit. 1 run will score easily, and that gets by Porcaro all the way to the wall as it rolled under her glove. 2 runs are in, and standing at third base with a triple is Hannah Mueller, and make that likely a single and a 2-base error. My mistake, as Mueller stands at third. Mavericks lead 5-2.
Yeah, that was a big play that time, and nice job by Mueller. She took that ball right up the middle, hit it hard. She was going to get at least 1 RBI on the play after Porcaro couldn't make the play in center field. Both runs came around to score, and Dolphins now find themselves down by a score of 5-2. And, in the 4th inning, Joe, Rivera was able to walk the leadoff batter, Johnson, and get away with it. But it hurts her a little bit here in the 5th inning as the leadoff walk turns into the first run of 2, and the Dolphins now find themselves down by a score of 5-2, and the Mavericks still threatening with a runner on third base and just 1 out.
Well, those free passes to open up innings can hurt you. It will be a new pitcher for the College of Staten Island. When we come back, Jacqueline Cateridge steps into the circle. After this break, College of Staten Island trailing Mercy College 5-2.
Being a champion takes more than talent, more than the perfect pass, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the spirit to always push harder, the ability to overcome any hurdle, and the fire to be the best. Welcome to Division II, where the pursuit is yours to create. And the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
And we are back from the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins now trail by 3. Our score 5-2 in favor of the Mercy College Mavericks. And Mike, the Mavericks lead this game by 3 runs despite an even hit total for both teams at 4 per side. The Mavericks' run total exceeded by their hits, and a big part of the reason the Dolphins find themselves behind are their pair of errors and the free passes issued in the circle.
Yeah, again, it was Rivera had faced a minimum 10 batters over the last 3 in the 3rd innings, but here in the 5th inning, a leadoff 4-pitch walk, and then a fielder's choice on Ricci put the Mavericks in business, and then Mueller with a big single that turned into a 2-base error, putting her on third, and the Mavericks with a 3-run lead and a runner on third. Still just 1 out, Joe.
Well, Danielle Burgos will be the batter. Burgos 1 for 2, and I think she's about to make it 2 for 3 right here, as Weisling not throwing that ball was more over it short. That one hit Cateridge in the shin and deflected right over to Moore. They will check on Cateridge as that ball was hit pretty hard. And unfortunately for the Dolphins, we saw a similar play go nearly in favor of the Mavericks, and now they may be down a pitcher. We'll see if Cateridge remains in the game.
Yeah, she took that one right off the leg. She seems to say that she's okay, Joe, but we'll see. And it will feel differently in a couple of minutes, probably also than it does right now.
No doubt about that, Mike. As those shots to the shin definitely leave bruises, and they hurt. As Cateridge will take a warm-up toss. She says she's okay and good to go. So she remains in the game, and during that season-opening doubleheader against the Uville, Cateridge went down trying to toss the ball to first base. She stumbled out of the circle, and they had to check on her for an injury after that as well. But she remained in the game for another batter or two, and then Korach had to come back on in relief. As the first pitch to Yolana Bowman misses down and in for ball 1.
We should get you Cateridge's numbers, Joe. She's 1-2 on the year, an 11.23 ERA. 14 in the 3rd innings, 40 hits, 27 runs, 23 earned. As she struggled a little bit here so far, Joe, in 2021.
That hit total, 40 over 14 innings, is way up there, and not often you see numbers like that. As she'll look to get things right. against this Mavericks team. Her team still very much in the game, trailing by 4 runs. They have 9 outs to play with over the last 3 innings. But they'll need Cateridge to find some success in the circle and keep this deficit right where it is. Mavericks already have 1 hard hit ball off Jacqueline in the circle in this half inning and now have a walk on 4 pitches.
Yeah, so Cateridge not getting it out in the first 2 batters, and now she's going to have to face catcher Sydney Johnson. And Johnson been one of the best hitters all afternoon for the Mavericks here today, Joe.
She's 1 for 1, singled and walked in her 2 plate appearances so far in this game, too. In game 1 was 1 for 2 with a run batted in, and she looks at a called strike 1 here. Johnston could break this game open with a base hit. Sabrina Gonzalez has been stellar in the circle since the first inning. Dolphins have had their chances but unable to cash in, and the Mavericks finally breaking through for our first run since the first with 3 here in the top of the 5th. 1 ball, 1 strike, the count, and that misses down and away for ball 2. That walk, oh, sorry, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, Joe, a big moment in the game here for the Dolphins. Down by 4 already. Really need to get back into the dugout.
No doubt about that. As that last walk for Cateridge, a rare walk as that ball is hit well but foul down the right field line and out of play. That evens the count at 2-2, but Cateridge had only walked 4 batters through her 14 innings of work. Unfortunately, she's only struck out 3 in those 14 and a third. She could really use a punch out right here. That sounded like a chant of "We Love Biscuit," Mike. I'm not sure exactly what that means, or if it's coming over the mic, as that ball is hit well out to deep right field. Whalen, just shy of the warning track, makes the catch for the second out. And advancing to third is Danielle Burgos.
Yeah, Johnson gave that ball quite a ride. And, you know, to start the at-bat, Whalen was shaded a little bit more over to right center. And after that long foul ball down the line, she moved over a couple of steps toward the line. And Johnson hit the ball well, but right where Whalen was standing for the second out.
Alyssa Guzman will be the batter, a chance to chase home the 7th Mavericks run of the game from third with a base hit. Dolphins hoping to keep this deficit right where it is at 4. And Guzman showing bunt. Dolphins will once again cut the throw off and give up second base. So if you're the Mavericks, you know that with 2 away and runners on the corners, you will be afforded that free base. But if you're the Dolphins, you know that when it mattered most, you were able to catch the Mavericks napping over at third and record the big out in game 1.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm sure that's something that Eric Crowd and the coaching staff is going to want to work on, Joe. You simply can't allow the runner to advance to second base every time there's a runner at third.
Well, that's it well out to right field again, but once again, Whalen is there to make the catch as Guzman just missed, putting that one over the wall. Dolphins will trail by 4 entering the bottom half of the 5th. Our score now 6-2 Mavericks here on the ECC Network.
Being a champion takes more than skill, more than endless drills, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the heart to give it your all, the agility to thrive from any angle, and the relentless drive to be the best. Welcome to Division 2, where the pursuit is yours to create. And the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
And we are back here at the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins trailing by a score of 6-2 as we enter the bottom half of the 5th inning. And there was a substitution just made. I could have sworn.
I didn't hear it, Joe.
I could have sworn they said
13 re-entering.
All right, 13 re-enters, and that will be at second base, I believe. I'll have to double-check that. But regardless, for the Dolphins in their half of this 5th inning, 2, 3, and 4 due up as I'm trying to get that defensive substitution, and I'm not quite able to spot it, Mike.
It's Nicole Smart, and she's going to drift over it. It looks like she's going to drift to second, so it's Nicole Smart re-entering the game It appears to be second base, but I'm going to watch her, Joe. Yes, she's going to stay at second.
All right, so she's back where she started the game, and it will be Elizabeth Moore leading things off for the Dolphins in the 5th. All right, they had a Kendo pinch run for Puglia, and Kendo now comes out of the game in favor of Smart at second. So these Mercy College Mavericks changes the official scorer's worst nightmare, but fortunately it's been one at a time so far. As Moore pops one up, foul, and TJ Tibbs makes the catch in the front row of the bleachers, and some styling and profiling after he makes that catch. Gives a salute to the commentary desk as well. TJ, our new director of athletics here at the College of Staten Island, recently appointed. Moore behind in the count, 0-1. And that misses outside for a ball.
Well, 0 for 2 on the afternoon, Joe. She flew out to deep left and struck out.
1 ball and 1 strike the count. Dolphins looking to battle back from a 4-run deficit here in the 5th. And the 1-1 pitch misses outside for ball 2. And we've seen this time and time again as the count changes and the at-bats go on. Johnston will come out from behind the plate and give some instruction to her infielders as Moore hits the ball pretty well to all fields. So I'm not sure if she's moving their positioning or just giving them some information about the upcoming pitch perhaps, as that one's fouled back and the count evens to 2 balls and 2 strikes.
The Dolphins looking to get back to 500, Joe. Fell behind early in the top of the 1st, give up 3, put 2 up in the bottom of the 1st, and that's where we stood till the 5th. Now the Dolphins find themselves down by 4.
2-2 pitch upcoming, and that's hit sharply on the ground to third, but Bowman is there, and she throws out Moore for the first out of the inning.
Yeah, and the Mavericks doing a much better job in the field here in game number 2, Joe, than they did in that first game, and made a couple of good plays out in the field already. That one, another solid play by Bowman for the first out here in the 5th.
And that will bring up Samantha McPherson, batting out of the 3rd spot in the Dolphins' batting order. She's 0 for 2 in the game, still hitless on the day. And she'll look to reach via the base hit for the first time. Did reach on an error in this game. And the first pitch to McPherson's on the outside corner for a called strike 1. If the Dolphins want to give the top of their batting order another chance in the 7th, they'll have to get some runners on. And a little bit early to look towards that as McPherson hits one sharply on the ground. Playing it on a hop is Smart, and she throws out McPherson for out number 2.
Yeah, we just mentioned before, Joe, Mavericks playing the field a little bit better, and even on the occasions where the Dolphins have hit the ball hard the last few innings, Mavericks have been able to make the plays defensively that they need to make. 2 up, 2 down quickly here for the Dolphins in the 5th.
Well, speaking of hitting the ball hard, Isabel Gallo has hit the ball very well today. A couple of base hits in game 1. A sacrifice fly out to deep left field in this game. Officially, she's 0 for 1 with that sac fly and a ground out as she looks at ball 1. Gallo will look to give Claudia Porcaro a chance in the Dolphins' 5th. And that's it out to shallow right field, and ranging back to make the catch is Smart for her second put out of the inning, and the Dolphins go down 1-2-3 in the 5th. Heading into the 6th inning, our score remains 6-2 Mavericks here on CSI Sportsnet, a proud part of the ECC network.
My dad was a soccer coach and bought this little book bag. I could sit in the book bag, like facing backwards and with like my legs out. So I'd be in his book bag when my dad coaches and the ball's going around. I'm like kicking at the ball in the back. And my dad was like, "We have a prodigy." So he put me into soccer and it just progressed from there. The catalyst was the opportunity to play soccer at a Division II school. On my team, I thrive to work as hard as I can. I mean, whatever you do on the field, there's a positive correlation to whatever else you do, be it personal relationships, homework, the way you carry yourself. I've changed since I got to King University. It's really helped me to develop as a leader. I think it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened.
Top half of the sixth about to get underway here from the CSI Softball Complex. Mavericks leading the Dolphins by a score of 6-2. It will be 7, 8, and 9 due up for Mercy in their half of the sixth.
Yeah, the Mercy put up 3 runs in their last at-bat in the 5th inning, and they took a 6-2 lead. And, it's been a very nice job done by Sabrina Gonzalez so far, Joe, for the Dolphins. And, since the 1st inning, she hasn't allowed a run for the Dolphins and, really has clamped down on the Dolphin offense and getting good defense behind her. And Mavericks find themselves up by 4 and looking for more in their half of the sixth.
For the miscues that ultimately cost the Mavericks the game in the field during Game 1, their defense has been that good here in Game 2. They've made some very nice plays, including a great diving catch on the infield early in the game, as well as some other very nice plays scattered throughout the first 5 innings of this one. It will be Alexandra Caravias leading things off for Mercy in their half of the sixth, and she just fouled back the first pitch of the inning down the right field line out of play and is behind in the count 0-1.
Yeah, she's hit the ball twice hard here in game number 2.
Well, if that batting out of order was any indication of what kind of game it would be for the Mavericks, you had to be a little unsure of things early on, but they've really straightened things out since early in this game and late in Game 1, where the errors ultimately won the Dolphins the game, as that 1-1 pitch is fouled away. But the Mavericks have really cleaned things up nicely here in Game 2 and have a commanding 4-run lead entering the 6th inning. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count on Caravias. And they're moving Claudia Porcaro out toward right center field. And after Caravias fouled off 2 to the right side, you have to think that's the right move. Driving the ball to the opposite field. And we saw that a couple of times last inning as well. 2 straight batters hitting the ball out to deep right field. A big gap in left center right now for Caravias. Here comes the 2-2 pitch, and that misses up and away for ball 3. Next pitch for Cateridge will be number 18 since coming into the game during the 5th in relief of Nicole Rivera. And that misses inside for ball 4, and it's another Dolphins walk issued by their pitching staff.
And that'll be another leadoff walk, so that's 3 innings in a row, Joe, where the Mavericks leadoff batter has reached on a base on balls.
And those are the only 3 walks of the game for Dolphins pitching. Rivera opened both the 4th and the 5th with 4 pitch walks, and Cateridge loses Caravias to a walk to open up the 6th. And Nicole Smart will drop down a bunt and foul it away. Smart got the start, was then removed from the game and substituted back in. I believe 2 players came into that slot in the order before Smart got in. Puglia followed by Akendo, and now Smart back in. As the throw to second will force the runner back to first. Caravias sliding in, but the ball was with Moore over at short. Corners in for the Dolphins. 1 ball and 1 strike the count on Smart. And the pitch from Cateridge is sliced to the right side, and it gets through Como Hendo and into right field. And Mike, that's the old Butcher Boy play by the Mavericks, and it yields them a base hit.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering a little bit why the Mavericks were even bunting in the first place, up by 4 and, hitting the ball well. But, a nice play that time. But, it was a play where Comundo might have been able to make that play at second base. It believe it scored an error, Joe.
It is. I should have said error, but that was hit hard right at her. Still a ball she has to knock down and keep on the infield at the very least. So it's an error charge to Kamohendo, and dropping down the sacrifice bunt is Ricci, and Dolphins eat that ball just outside of the circle. They have no play, and the bases are loaded.
Yeah, and, this has been a game, Joe, that the Dolphins really have struggled defensively, and it's really come back to haunt them. Error scored on the play. It's going to be their fourth error of the game. There have been other plays that weren't necessarily scored errors, but plays that could have been made. And, so far here in game number 2, Joe, that's been the difference. When the Mavericks have had defensive plays to make out in the field, they've been able to make them, and Dolphins have struggled a little bit more in the field, and it's cost them. And now, all of a sudden, the Mavericks, with the bases loaded, nobody out, Ariana Ricci going to be the batter, and again, opportunities for the Dolphins to make plays. A play out to Coromundo, she couldn't make the play at second, and then really just a bunt right back to the to the mound, Joe. Really, something that shouldn't be that difficult to play, and Dolphins come away with no outs at all on it, and now finding themselves on the cusp of really getting blown out here in game number 2.
Well, I looked down to score the previous error on my scorecard and missed the following error looking down at my iPad to make the scoring on the previous play. So back-to-back errors for the Dolphins, leaving them nowhere to put Crawford. Bases loaded, nobody out in the Mavericks half of the 6th, and Cateridge quickly behind in the count 2-0. Here comes the 2-0 pitch. That's it up in the air. Medium, deep right. Whalen coming underneath it. And Dolphins missed the cutoff, but is backed up nicely by Cateridge, who was standing behind Gallo, and the ball did end up with Gallo just a couple of steps away from home plate. So nicely done there by the Dolphins for the first out.
Yeah, that was a fly ball to short right field. It was going to be really difficult for any advancement on the play. Good play by the Dolphins. 1 out, and now the very tough Hannah Mueller will be the batter. Mueller 1 for 3, reached on an error, singled, and scored twice.
And the first pitch to Mueller is fouled away. I'm not sure the Dolphins can afford to give up anything more, Mike. Their bats have really been dormant since the first inning, and they've had some chances but haven't made anything of them yet, and to fall behind by any more would put them in a really tough spot.
5, 6, and 7 schedule for the Dolphins. Boquero, Cateridge, and Whalen in the bottom half of the 6th. But first, a couple of big outs to go here for the Dolphins in the top of the 6th.
Well, I said it before, Mike. The Dolphins really needed to get out of this inning unscathed, and almost 2/3 of the way there if Cateridge could pick up a big punch out. And that's it hard on the ground to short. Moore will come home with it, and the throw is in time. Nicely done by the Dolphins on the infield as they cut down Caravias trying to score, and the Dolphins are 1 out away from escaping a bases-loaded jam.
Yeah, a nice job by Cateridge, really hanging tough and battling, trying to fight her way through a couple of errors and a leadoff walk, and this has been an inning where the Mavericks threatened without really hitting the ball very hard, and Cateridge 1 batter away from getting out of it.
That one's popped up foul by Daniela Burgos for strike 1. And if the Dolphins could escape this, you have to think that energizes them a bit heading into the bottom of the 6th. As the 0-1 misses up and away to even the count at 1.
Yeah, Burgos has hit the ball hard in game number 2, lining out and singling.
As that one is hit out into shallow left center, and coming in to make the catch is Carry-On. So Jacqueline Cateridge escapes a bases-loaded, nobody out jam, sending the Dolphins back to the dugout in the bottom half of the 6th, trailing by 4. CSI comes to bat when we come back.
Champions know how to seize opportunities. When they see moments of greatness unfold right before their eyes, they push as hard as they possibly can, and then they push harder. Because the heart of a champion never settles, never quits, and never stops giving its all. We are champions. We are Division II. We go big, we give it everything we've got, and we win. On the field, on our campuses, in our communities, for our causes, in our careers. We rise to become champions in everything we do. We are Division II, and there are no limits here. We make our time count. We set our own path. We become champions on our terms. It's time to up your game, because we're here to play and learn. But most importantly, we're here to discover ourselves, our vision, our heart, our drive, to achieve every goal we aim for, because we want to be champions at the highest level, life. At Division II, the opportunities are here. Are you ready?
Bottom half of the sixth about to get started here at the CSI Softball Complex. Dolphins trailing 6-2, and it will be 5, 6, and 7 for the Dolphins in the bottom half of inning number 6.
Yeah, Dolphins find themselves down by 4, Joe, so they need base runners here in the 6th. Let's see how they can start off, how Picaro can start the inning off for the Dolphins.
Well, Sabrina Gonzalez has been very tough on this Dolphins team so far. She's been dominant since the first inning. Hasn't allowed an earned run in this game. Both runs that came home for the Dolphins were unearned. Gonzalez has allowed 4 base hits and only 1 walk. Here comes the 1-0 to Porcaro, and that's downstairs for ball 2. Dolphins were in danger of seeing this game slip away in the top half of the inning. The Mavericks loaded the bases with nobody out, but failed to score. That gives CSI new life in the bottom half of the 6th, but they only have 6 outs to play with, down by 4. Here comes the 2-0 pitch to Porcaro, and that's upstairs for ball 3.
Yeah, Gonzalez, a junior pitcher from Royal Palm Beach, Florida, and she's pitched well all game long, but, you know, Joe, the later the games get, the tougher the pitches seem to become, and we'll see how she could do here in the 6th. She's fallen behind Picaro 3-0.
I think a big issue for the Dolphins is they haven't really run up Gonzalez's pitch count in this game. And there's a 4-pitch walk to open the bottom half of the 6th. Claudia Porcaro is on, and that will bring up Jacqueline Cateridge.
Yeah, and that's certainly not what you want to start the inning, and that will lead to another conference out at the mound, Joe.
And that will lead to a pitching change as Catherine Zucker will come out of the bullpen for Mercy College. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Zucker pitches to Jacqueline Cateridge here in the bottom half of the 6th inning. Dolphins trailing by 4.
The Kettle Black on Staten Island, a top 5 wing joint in America by Food and Wine magazine. Serving daily lunch and dinner at the bar or on the floor. Perfect for family and group parties with top shelf drink and delicious food. From great times with good friends. Live sports and watch parties. To Staten Island's hottest nightlife. The Kettle Black features live music and DJs weekly. The Kettle Black features daily and nightly food and drink specials. The best Staten Island has to offer is at the Kettle Black. We'll see you there at the Kettle Black, located on 415 Forest Avenue, Staten Island.
And we're back here on CSI Sportsnet. Dolphins get a leadoff walk to open the 6th inning. Claudia Porcaro stands over at first base, and that immediately prompted a pitching change for the Mavericks. Catherine Zucker coming on to pitch with nobody out and 1 on here in the 6th.
Yeah, you know, an opportunity for the Dolphins as they get the leadoff runner on. And, you know, if you're Mercy College, you want to bring in your relief pitcher, and Catherine Zucker has pitched very well so far for Mercy College this year.
And her first pitch is in for a called strike one to Jacqueline Cateridge. Cateridge 1 for 2. She flew out and singled through the right side in her last at bat.
She's 1-0 on the year. This is her 6th appearance in 11 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, all earned, 7 walks, 11 strikeouts. Opponents batting just 162 against Catherine this year.
And I'm not sure Cateridge liked that strike call much, but it puts her in an 0-2 hole.
Yeah, that one up in the strike zone a little bit, but called for a strike, so now Cateridge down 0-2.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Zucker leads the Mavericks in appearances. I'll take a look at your stat sheet. That's correct. And they're probably relying on her to seal the deal in this one, with her team ahead by 4 runs, and they wasted no time making the call to the bullpen after that leadoff walk. Count remains no balls and 2 strikes on Cateridge.
And Gonzalez, in her 1 appearance, allowed 8 runs, 7 earned runs in 5 innings. Pitching very well this afternoon against the Dolphins.
Well, it appeared to me as if Cateridge looked at that pitch right down the middle for strike 3, and that will bring up Victoria Whalen. Whalen 0 for 2, lined out, and then stepped out of the batter's box attempting a bunt. I was shocked that my stats application had that option for out of box, but sure did.
That is impressive, Joe.
Yeah. That is a comprehensive statistical stat-keeping app right there as Whalen takes a look at a called strike one. Dolphins are very patient against Zucker here in these first 2 at-bats. As the 0-1 pitch misses up and away, that evens the count at 1.
And, you know, Joe, you go back into the bottom half of the 4th inning when Whalen was called out on that 0-1 pitch for bunting out of the box. Dolphins were just down at a run at the time with Cateridge at first base and no one out, and that's really as close as the Dolphins have come here this afternoon.
Well, the count now 2-1 on Whalen as the Dolphins look to ultimately bring the tying run to the plate. They'll need a couple more base runners to do that. A lot of work to do for the CSI team to get back in this game. 2-1 the count on Whalen. And Zucker's pitch is swung on and missed for strike 2.
Time Zucker coming right in and challenging Whalen on the pitch to even the count up at 2.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Dolphins in need of base runners here in the 6th. Time running out on CSI as that one skips in, and that hit Whalen on a bounce, and she will be awarded first base. Well, you learn something new every day, Mike, because I did not know you could be awarded a hit by pitch on a ball that bounces.
Well, you know, Joe, we've seen a lot of things here in this doubleheader this afternoon that you usually don't see. And, you know, coming back to softball after a year absence, boy, I'll tell you, there's been a lot of strange things happening in the doubleheader here. But one thing that's happened is that the Dolphins are 1 base runner away from bringing the tying run to the plate. And that's, you know, certainly something the Dolphins would love to be able to do here this afternoon.
The 8th place hitter, Jessica Carrion, is the batter. She's 0 for 2 in the game. And she looks at a called strike 1.
That was a nice first pitch that time by Zucker. She just gave up a hit batsman, and that was a nice strike, Joe. Not over the middle, but on the outside of the plate.
And Carrion swings straight through that fastball for strike 2, and I just took a look at the spray chart for Carrion in the 4 games that I've kept stats for. The ball hasn't left the infield. So the Dolphins will have to rely on Carrion's speed for her to reach in all likelihood, unless she's able to put one into the outfield behind 0-2. And she takes a called strike 3. So Carrion goes down on 3 pitches, and there are 2 away. Gorette Comohendo will be the batter.
Yeah, so far Zucker struck out 2 and hit 1 in her 3 batters here in the bottom of the 6th. And, you know, at least the Dolphins look like they'll turn around the order, Joe, and at least get the top of the order back up. But still looking for that big 2-out hit now from Comundo.
Well, the Dolphins would love to make the job in the 7th a bit easier here, and Comuhendo could do that with a well-placed single. Porcaro, the runner, over at second. Whalen, the runner, at first. 1-0 the count on Comuhendo. And that's fouled back.
She had a good cut on that pitch by Zucker. Fouled it off to even the count up 1-1.
Comuhendo has reached twice. She singled and walked in the game, and if she can get on here, that would bring Emily Korek to the plate as the tying run. Here comes the 1-1 to Comuhendo. And that's low for ball 2. Taking a look at the spray chart for Comuhendo, when she swung the bat, typically pulls it. Has put a few in the outfield in the 4 games I've scored. Here comes the 2-1 pitch, and that is fouled straight back at me, and count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on for the Dolphins. They trail by 4, 2 times 2 in the bottom half of the 6th. And the pitch from Zucker is hit out into shallow right field. And Ricci makes the catch to retire the side. So the Dolphins strand a pair in their half of the 6th. Their deficit remains 4, heading into the 7th here on CSI Sportsnet.
My path to a college degree would have been completely different had I not run Division II cross country for the University of Mount Olive. Having an athletic and academic scholarship was key for my success. Our coaches were really helpful with balancing out my academics and athletics. I decided to attend graduate school because I wanted to become an athletic director. Receiving the postgraduate scholarship through the NCAA provided me with the flexibility to choose the school that I wanted. So now I know that I can accomplish any goal that I set for myself.
And we're back from the College of Staten Island here on the ECC Network, our second home softball broadcast of the 2021 season. And it's been a very entertaining day of softball here at the College of Staten Island. Right now in game number 2, the Mercy College Mavericks lead the CSI Dolphins by a score of 6-2 after the Dolphins walked off in game number 1, winning by a final score of 3-2. And in the top half of the 7th for the Mavericks, it will be 4, 5, and 6 coming to bat against Jacqueline Cateridge.
Yeah, so Cateridge remaining out on the mound for the Dolphins. She's done a pretty good job here this afternoon, Joe, for the Dolphins, keeping the Dolphins in the game, getting out of a bases-loaded jam in the top half of the 6th inning. And, you know, it looked like the game might get away from the Dolphins there, Joe, or walk in a couple of errors, but Cateridge settled down, got a fly out to right, a ground out, and a fly out to get out of the inning, and we head down to the 7th.
Well, I have a lot of stats here on this digital scoring app. I need to see if we have the left on base tally because the Dolphins have seen quite a few opportunities go by the wayside in this game as the count quickly runs to 2-0. Oh, we got it.
Dave Pizzuto right on the scene as always.
That's 7, so thank you to Dave for that. Dolphins have stranded 7, several of those in scoring position as that's popped up. And that lands just to my right for a foul ball. A team effort here at the commentary desk and the stats desk right behind home plate at the CSI softball complex, and much easier when you're seated side by side as opposed to baseball where we're isolated in the commentary booth making the call at the CSI baseball complex. Count on Yolanda Bowman even at 2 balls and 2 strikes after that swing through. And the 2-2 pitch is popped up, foul.
Yeah, Cateridge took a little bit off of that one, had Bowman out in front of it. Count remains even at 2-2.
Sounds like we have a dog on campus. Either that or it's the Mercy dugout making some noise. No one else sure what that noise was, as that one's popped up to third, and McPherson makes the catch for the first out. That will bring up Sydney Johnston.
Number 12,
Johnston 1 for 2 in the game. She singled, walked, and flew out in her 3 plate appearances.
Yeah, and the 5th was an inning where Cateridge was on the ropes a little bit, and Johnson and Guzman both hit the ball deep to right field, but Dolphins able to make the play on both of those balls and get back into the dugout and keep the deficit at 4.
Well, all 6 runs in this game were charged to Nicole Rivera. However, only 3 of them were earned. And based on the baseball and softball we've seen in the last 24 hours, it would only be fitting that the Dolphins, if they do end up losing this game, would lose at 6-3, with the unearned runs accounting for the difference. That's just been the way it's gone the last 24 hours or so. And you could say the same for the Mavericks in the first game, as that one's fouled back. And it always seems those misplays in the field come back to bite you, but as Dave mentioned yesterday during baseball, the good plays that are made don't appear on the stat sheet. You don't see those. And here in Game 2, despite the 6 errors between the two teams, we've seen several good plays as well by both sides. And that 1-2 pitch sails upstairs, evening the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. This pitch for Cateridge, number 42 in relief, upcoming to Sydney Johnston. And that's hit well out to right field once again. Whalen moving back onto the warning track, and she makes the catch.
Yeah, Johnson's hit the ball very hard in her last 2 at-bats. Joe has nothing to show for it, and a nice defensive play that time by Whalen, who went back to the warning track and made the catch. And Guzman comes up now with Joe with 2 out, nobody on.
Whalen's played a very good right field. As I just mentioned, several good defensive plays in the game for the Dolphins. Whalen has been chased back onto the warning track 3 times and was able to keep a run from scoring over at third base, getting under a ball with a bit of a running start, made a strong throw into the plate to hold a runner at third, and that was in that bases loaded jam that the Dolphins escaped. As Guzman looks at a called strike 1 and then hits another one out well to right field, and once again right at Whalen, as that's 5 hit in her direction out there in right since Cateridge entered the game. And Mavericks go down 1-2-3 in their half of the 7th. Last chance for the Dolphins, trailing by 4 runs when we come back.
Wayne State Medical School has been my dream medical school since I was 5. Athletics are important, but so is service. So is research, so is becoming a better person, and we expect you to do well athletically, but don't forget the reason you're here, which is to give back to your community and to get good grades. It was my sophomore indoor season. It was the first year with our new head coach, and he comes in and he's like, we could be a national contending team if you guys work hard. And I heard him, and I was like, well, I want to be a national champion. I want to be an All-American. And I bought in because he bought into our team. And I qualified to go to indoor nationals. I decided I wanted it, so I went and grabbed it.
Back here on CSI Sportsnet, Dolphins and Mavericks head into the bottom half of the 7th inning with Mercy College leading CSI by 4. Top of the order for the Dolphins due up here in their half of the 7th, and Emily Corrick will get things started for the College of Staten Island.
Yeah, and Corrick 2 for 3 on the afternoon, Joe. And if you remember, she came up in the bottom of the 4th with a couple of runners on and 2 out, but grounded out to end that Dolphin threat. And then in the top half of the next inning, Mercy tacked on 3 runs, and that's where we are right now. The Mavericks with a 6-2 lead.
Scoreboard has 5 hits for the Mavericks. I have 6, so I might have a mistake somewhere on my scorecard, but about to go through the line for both sides. For the Mavericks on the scoreboard, it says 6 runs on 5 hits, 2 errors. For the Dolphins, 2 runs on 4 base hits and 4 errors. And Corrick looks it up and in for ball 2. So if the Dolphins were to get the tying run to the plate without recording it out, that would be Gallo in the number 4 spot. Elizabeth Moore on deck, Samantha McPherson in the hole right now. But the Dolphins getting what they wanted entering this final half inning with the top of the order, getting things started. And Corrick quickly ahead in the count 3-0.
And, you know, if you're the Mavericks, that's the last thing that you want is to fall behind in the count to the leadoff batter with a 4-run lead. So let's see if Zucker able to turn it around and, you know, start coming right at the batter.
That prompts another conference between Johnston and Zucker. Home run and a walk, basically the same thing right here. Dolphins need to put 3 on base to get the tying run to the plate, and Korek looks at a called strike 1. Korek looking to get on base for the 3rd time any way she can. She's still ahead in the count, 3-1. And the pitch from Zucker is downstairs for ball 4.
So that's a good start for the inning for the Dolphins, and that's going to bring up the shortstop, Elizabeth Moore, who's 0 for 3 on the afternoon, Joe. But Dolphins looking to keep this game alive, and they need base runners.
Well, they are 1/3 of the way there towards bringing the tying run to the plate. Korek over at first, Moore at the plate. Now McPherson on deck, and Gallo in the hole. As we have yet another conference, this time coming from the dugout to join his team around the circle is Mike Fazio. I don't believe we will have a pitching change here. And heading over to have a word with Eric Kraut are both Moore and Korek.
Yeah, again, you know, a situation where there's a runner on first base and no one out, and you would wonder what they need to discuss, Joe, in such a situation with the team up by 4 runs. But
well, Mike, that's why they're out there and you and I are back here. Too complex for our feeble minds, apparently. As with nobody out, Korek the runner at first, Moore the batter, and that's downstairs for ball 1.
Yeah, so Zucker, who had allowed 7 walks in 11 innings, has already hit a batter and walked a batter through 1+ innings.
Well, I think it's apparent right now, Mike, that she doesn't have her command as the throw behind Korek allows her to move to second. And that's a play where if it doesn't work, you and I are going off behind the plate, Mike. There's no other way to put it, but Korek ends up at second base.
Well, you know, I'm not sure she ended up intended to end up at second, but she kind of got forced. Her hand got forced a little bit, Joe. She got herself too far off first base, and very fortunate that the throw hit her in the back. So now she's on second base with no one out. But, you know, again, her run not that important.
Well, the base runner is very important, as her run not a factor yet, and Moore looks at strike 1, but to get caught in that situation where you have to take off for second. And fortunately for Korek, I think even if the throw doesn't hit her, she's safe. And not sliding may have made it easier for her to beat that one out, as Moore now looks at a called strike 2. Two balls and 2 strikes, the count on Moore. Samantha McPherson in the on-deck circle, hoping that Moore can get on and give the Dolphins an opportunity in the final half inning. Here comes the 2-2 pitch, and that's fouled back. Zucker has thrown 27 pitches, 16 of them for strikes.
And if you're Mercy here, Joe, you want to forget about the runner at second, ground ball to short or third. You want to get the runner at first base, not worry about the runner at second.
And Moore off balance on that 2-strike swing, and she will go down on strikes for the first out.
Yeah, Zucker's 3rd strikeout, Joe, in 4 outs.
And Samantha McPherson will be the batter, still looking for her first base hit of the day.
Nice job by Zucker, Joe, falling behind in the count to Moore, hanging tough, coming back for the strikeout.
Situation, even if you're behind 2-0, you have no choice but to come after the hitter up by 4 runs, and That's it on the ground over to short. Long throw from shortstop in time to get McPherson for the second out.
And the good defensive plays for the Mavericks continue here in game number 2. A nice play at short that time for the second out. Dolphins down to their last out, Joe.
It will be left to Isabel Gallo. Gallo 0 for 2 in this one after a couple of hits in game 1. Corrick's run over at third doesn't mean anything. Tying run in the hole would be Victoria Whalen. Claudia Porcaro stands on deck. Long way before the Dolphins get it to Whalen as Gallo looks at that pitch outside for ball 1. Zucker looking to close the door on CSI and earn Mercy a split of today's ECC doubleheader. 1-0 the count on Gallo. And that's it out to shallow right center, and it might find some open real estate out there. It does, and fielding it on a hop is Crawford, but that will allow Corrick to score from third, and the Dolphins trail 6-3.
Yeah, and that's going to be the second RBI of the game for Isabel Gallo as she's able to bloop that one into short right field, and Dolphins still alive here, Joe. One base runner away for bringing the tying run to the plate.
Well, I said it before this half inning, Mike, and you certainly hope it's not the case if you're a fan of the Dolphins, but those 3 unearned runs looming large right now over the College of Staten Island. As Claudia Porcaro is the batter, she will look to give Jacqueline Cateridge a chance as the tying run. I misspoke and said that Whalen was in the hole as the tying run. It would be Cateridge behind Porcaro. That was my mistake. And Porcaro now ahead in the count 1-0. Things get a lot more interesting if Porcaro can get on here. Here comes the 1-0 pitch, and that's upstairs for ball 2.
There's Zucker falling behind in the count 2-0.
Lost in all of this is that Jacqueline Cateridge came in out of the Dolphins bullpen and through 2 2/3 shutout innings. She might have a chance to be the hero if the Dolphins can get another runner on, and they're one pitch away from doing just that as Porcaro ahead in the count now 3-0. And that means it's time for another conference in the circle.
Yeah,
as our entire scores table here having a nice laugh is, I think we set a record for pitchers on Monday used by the Dolphins against Stack, or I should say against Bridgeport. Or no, it was against Stack on Wednesday. Only 3 pitchers used on Monday. Dolphins used 10 pitchers against, make that Dominican on Wednesday, as I'm completely lost. Here comes the 3-0 to Porcaro, and that's in for a called strike 1. But the Dolphins used 10 pitchers on Wednesday against Dominican, which I think was a record in a game I've covered, and I think we've certainly set the record for conferences in the circle here today in this doubleheader.
Well, you got to go back to some of those Montclair State games, Joe, and it's pretty close.
Those are classics. 3 balls and 1 strike, the count on Porcaro, and she swings through that pitch for strike 2. Mavericks now 1 strike away from earning themselves a split of today's doubleheader. Three balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Gallo will get a head start at first, but that run doesn't mean anything for the Dolphins. They need Porcaro to get on to prolong this game and give them a chance to tie, and it will not happen for the Dolphins in this one as Porcaro goes down swinging to bring this one to a close. Catherine Zucker with the punch out to earn her team the 6-3 win. For the Mavericks, 6 runs on 5 hits and 2 errors in the game. For the Dolphins, 3 runs on 5 base hits, 4 errors, and Mike, I said it before, 3 unearned runs looming large over the Dolphins in this game.
Yeah, the Dolphins committed 4 errors in game number 2, and it came back to bite them a little bit. They had a couple of opportunities where they couldn't get the big hit, and then the biggest part in game number 2 was good fielding on the part of the Mavericks, in spite of being charged with 2 errors, and nice relief pitching by Catherine Zucker, and it resulted in a split as the Dolphins split the games here today, dropped to 1-3 at home. Their overall record drops to 3-5, but good performance by the Dolphins here today, and a lot of good softball, and definitely great to be back at the CSI softball complex, seeing softball played live once again.
Well, I felt the same exact way when I returned for the broadcast back on March 30th. And, Mike, of course, great to have you back calling a game with you once again. And for the Dolphins, no reason to be discouraged after this game. And, you have to remember, the Dolphins are still in provisional year 2 as part of their transition into NCAA Division II. And they're coming out against teams that have recruiting classes full of Division II players. The Dolphins only have 2 such recruiting classes right now, and a very small roster for the CSI softball team as well. So for the Dolphins, no reason to hang your heads after the second game. Of course, you'd like to have those 3 unearned runs back, but unfortunately for the Dolphins, the game doesn't work that way. Mercy suffered a similar fate in Game 1. They earned a split of today's East Coast Conference doubleheader. And for us here at the CSI Softball Complex, that will wrap things up. Our final score in Game 1, Dolphins walk off with a 3-2 victory over the Mercy College Mavericks. Mercy College comes back to take Game 2 by a final score of 6-3. So until next time, we thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Dolphins' next home game this Thursday. We have that broadcast scheduled on CSI Sportsnet, so tune in and enjoy the rest of your weekend.